civilian Hokage, unstoppable from the start with 8 gates. Welcome back, brave explorers of impossible worlds. We are excited to have you here to continue this odyssey together. Before we continue, everything you'll hear is pure fiction, so please don't try to replicate combat techniques at home. This wonderful story in all its rights belong to its brilliant original author. We are only the messengers of entertainment. Want another dose of adventure? Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a single chapter, and if you can't wait, our Patreon has exclusive surprises you'll love. Chapter 376 Arrival and Discussion. Konohamaru was in so much pain he was on the verge of tears. Ebisu-sensei, why did you hit me? What happened? He still has the nerve to ask. Ebisu's nose wasn't a nose, and his eyes weren't eyes. He was stunned. He looked around and saw Murakami Daichi, who was giving Uchiha a thumbs up, Hinata Hanabi, who was silently staring at him, and Yuden and Moji, who both looked worried. Then, confusion, understanding, and shame, all sorts of emotions were reflected on his face. Why are you still standing there? Thank him. If it weren't for Aoi, you wouldn't have lived to see the sunrise. Hesitantly, he approached Uchiha and said sheepishly, Thank you. There were no words to hide the shame he felt at that moment. He never imagined he would display such shameful behavior in front of his lifelong enemy. But whatever happened, the other party saved him after all, and he had to thank them. As for the embarrassment, he could only savor it slowly for the rest of the journey. No need. Uchiha's face was calm, as if she had done something very ordinary, and she finally walked toward her tent. After this incident, no one could sleep. We simply packed up the tent, lit a campfire, and cooked. By the time we finished breakfast, it was already dawn. Konohamaru didn't say anything, and Uchiha told everyone, let's go. Konohamaru remained silent for the rest of the journey. Konohamaru, don't be sad. Even though you fell asleep last night, we won't blame you, Yuden said in a subdued voice. Mengwang rolled his eyes and then said, don't listen to her nonsense, Konohamaru, it's okay to lose temporarily. Although Aoi did a little better than you yesterday, but it's just minor details. When you face the enemy, you'll have the chance to prove your skills. By then, Yuden and I will do everything we can to help you complete the mission. Konohamaru turned and looked at his two companions. Although he knew they were trying to comfort him, unfortunately, it didn't have much of an effect. Thanks, but don't try to comfort me. He raised his head and looked at the back of Uchiha, who was ahead, a flash of seriousness in his eyes. This time, I'll never lose to you again. There were no further mishaps along the way. With a setting sun illuminating the sky, they arrived at their mission location. This is the northern part of the Land of Fire, the area bordering the Iron Kingdom. It's sparsely populated, and aside from a few small villages on the border, only traders pass through. Winding mountains stretch out on either side of the main road, and the hill where the bandits are located is one of them. Perhaps to facilitate theft, this mountain isn't far from the main road and isn't the tallest, reaching just under 100 meters. The area is roughly the size of a football field. If you stand on high ground, you can see the whole panorama at a glance. Suzumiya Musashi and his group hide about 2 kilometers from the mountain summit. From a distance, they could see dozens of wooden and mud huts on the mountain, with wisps of smoke rising into the sky. Outside the buildings, they could vaguely see guards and secret sentinels patrolling from time to time. Murakami Daichi watched from afar and, after a moment, said, given the current situation, the information is basically correct. There are almost 100 of them. Only 8 sentinels are visible. Obviously, this group isn't made up of ordinary Ronin or bandits. They'll be stationed here. Murakami Daichi then looked at Uchiha. How? Although Murakami Daichi has always prided himself on his extraordinary wisdom, he knows that Uchiha is the undisputed core of the team, both in strength and character. His analysis and Hinata Hanabi's Byakugan were only auxiliary. Uchiha didn't directly answer Murakami Daichi's question, but waited patiently. Half an hour later, Hinata Hanabi cautiously returned to the team and approached her. There are a total of 87 people in the buildings. We can see 67 of them are on the southern slope of the mountain, including 8 guards and 4 sentries. There are 20 people on the northern slope of the mountain. Judging by their movements, 4 of them are guards, and the others must be prisoners. Uchiha looked at Konohamaru and said, my idea is to wait until the mission objective has rested before acting. What do you think, Konohamaru? I have no objection. What time is it exactly, Uchiha? Around 4:30 in the morning. Konohamaru was about to nod, But he stopped suddenly, his face darkening. It's 4:30 in the morning. It was right when he was on watch this morning. Well, objectively speaking, Uchiha chose a very opportune moment. Uchiha ignored Konohamaru's change in expression and continued, at 4:30 in the morning, your team and mine will attack simultaneously from the east and west, respectively. Hanabi and Daichi should flank from the north. We mustn't let any mission target escape. Uchiha finished speaking, and Yuden slowly raised his hand and asked hesitantly, doesn't letting a mission target escape mean arresting them all? In that case, aren't we short-staffed? Uchiha stared at Yuden in surprise. She thought the other person seemed stupid, but she hadn't expected to be truly stupid. Are you joking? Murakami Daichi interjected. The mission scroll shows that this band of brigands intercepted passing merchants and pedestrians and looted villages. They've killed over 150 people and affected more than 300 households in the village. Capture them? Who wants that? Kill them all, of course. Yuden's face paled, and Menhurong's didn't look good either. Although as a ninja, he was prepared to kill, when the moment came, he still felt uneasy and panicked. Ebisu watched the scene from behind and sighed again. Well, the captain is no match for them, and this time even the quality of his companions is inferior. Perhaps he should ask Suzumiya Musashi for advice on how to lead a team. While it might sound inappropriate for a teacher to seek advice from former students, it's nothing compared to teaching current students. As long as there are teaching tips available, one should heed them. This same approach can reveal any issues with the teaching itself or if the skill gap between students is too wide. Meanwhile, after Yuden posed the question, Uchiha didn't even bother speaking to the two of them and asked Konohamaru directly, what do you think? She was already prepared. If Konohamaru. Her attitude mirrored Yuden's, she planned to cease cooperating with the other party and directly request that Suzumiya Musashi undertake the mission with 3 people. In any case, the skill gap shouldn't be that significant. Chapter 377 Action. Fortunately, Konohamaru was stronger than his 2 companions, and although he was a little nervous, he didn't show it. I have no opinion, but, are you sure you want to take charge of a direction? According to Uchiha's plan, Hinata Hanabi and Murakami Daichi were responsible for securing the 4 positions on the north side and preventing the target from escaping. This task should be the easiest. He and Yuden Moeung were responsible for eliminating the enemies on the east side, while Uchiha was responsible only for the east side. That's equivalent to the workload of 1 person, let alone 3. Is he being too arrogant? Uchiha said calmly, don't worry about my affairs, take care of your side and don't let the mission target escape. Konohamaru, you'll see, under Uchiha's arrangements, Murakami Daichi completed the night watch mission that evening and declined Konohamaru's request to watch over the second half of the night. The sky was somewhat gloomy, the moonlight hazy, and the starlight invisible. On the mountaintop, only a few lights remained, emitting a dim glow, and occasionally, curses and men's laughter could be heard, mingled with shouts and pleas for mercy. It spread along with the night and gradually shattered into pieces. In the team, only Suzumiya Musashi possessed the hearing to perceive the faint sounds on the wind. He sat cross-legged against a tree, his deep eyes gazing into the distance in the direction from which the sound originated, and the murderous intent that had been dormant for so long resurfaced in his eyes. Ninja world. Always like this. There are beautiful things that captivate him, and also sordid corners that enrage him. It awakened his murderous desire time and time again. Wait. This is Aoi's mission, and it's the other party's first experience killing someone. The ninja world is so vast that it can't eliminate all the tainted lives. Aoi decides to act tomorrow morning. He's in no hurry. When dawn breaks and the light appears, the filth before your eyes will vanish from the world. It would be best if Aoi could clean it up, but if not, he wouldn't mind doing it himself. Why don't you rest? He sat down next to Suzumiya Musashi. Are you worrying too much? Don't get worked up. I think Aoi is very good. She's much better than the guy I have. Suzumiya Musashi didn't give a direct answer. Ebisu couldn't hear what he heard, so he didn't have to explain. If you can't sleep, just sit for a while. Konohamaru got a headache, given the excellence of Uchiha Aoi, Hanabi, and Daichi. He talked about the interesting things that happened when he led Suzumiya Musashi's team and how he felt about graduating and becoming a Jonin. Finally, Suzumiya Musashi couldn't bear it any longer and said, Master Ebisu, I have a book here. You originally left it here. How about I give it to you to appreciate? Ebisu stopped speaking abruptly. Their conversation was interrupted, but his sadness dissipated when he saw what Suzumiya Musashi handed him. In the dim light. No. Even in total darkness, he could clearly see the golden title on the cover. No unofficial person comes, the great lost concubine of Union. Gulp. The sound of swallowing was unmistakable. This is the masterpiece of the Midnight Knife Annual Collection. Damn, you're amazing. You don't even think about the master when you have good things, in the darkness of the night. Suzumiya Musashi could even see Ebisu's face gradually turning red. He felt only a sudden blur before his eyes, and the next second, the book vanished from his hand. He couldn't clearly see the other's movements. Ha. Ebisu smiled warmly. Musashi, it's a pleasure chatting with you. It reminds me of my youth. Oh. It's quite late. Well, I won't disturb your rest. I'm going to sleep as well. Goodbye. Immediately afterward, Ebisu displayed the speed of a Jonin. He disappeared before Suzumiya Musashi's eyes and returned to his camouflage tent in the blink of an eye. After a while, as the cloth was being removed, Ebisu, inside the tent, put several layers of thick fabric over his head and then turned on a flashlight. The thick bundle blocked out the light. In the night, the only sounds were the constant whistle of turning pages and increasingly rapid breathing. Sigh, Suzumiya Musashi sighed softly. The other side remains the same, Ebisu, unchanged. Teaching is just a job, and my passion for art hasn't diminished in the slightest. The moonlight was fading. 1. When the last light went out, the night was plunged into absolute silence. At 3 o'clock, Murakami Daichi woke Uchiha. There are 67 people gathered at Shannon and 2 at Mangang. The 4 secret sentinels are here, 2 in a group. One of them is motionless, he must have fallen asleep. With that, Hinata Hanabi glanced at Konohamaru without realizing it. Konohamaru, Cyrillic lettered X. There are 18 people on the north side, 2 fewer than last night. There are 2 new bodies at the foot of the mountain, a man and a woman. That's right, Uchiha thought for a moment and said, Konohamaru, hide 300 meters from the sentry on the east side. Correct time, 4:30. No signal, attack immediately. Any questions? No problem, Hanabi, tell us the location of the secret sentry, and then you and Daichi will watch the north side. You have the Byakugan, so you should adapt to the situation. Yes, soon. The 2 teams split into 3 groups and stealthily crept forward under cover of darkness. 4:25, 4:26, 4:29. Konohamaru was breathing heavily. The enemy's secret sentry was about 100 meters in front of him, as if ready to attack, holding a sharp knife and waiting for him to approach and fight. Time seemed extremely long at that moment. Finally, when the clock hands reached their lowest point, 4:30, Konohamaru was in a great mood. He gave a signal with his eyes, and Yuden, Mo, and Wang immediately nodded. The next instant, the 3 of them did their best to hold their breath, exerted precise control over the chakra beneath their feet, and began to move forward. Plop, plop, my heart was pounding like a drum at that moment. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 378 Bloodshed. Konohamaru was even a little worried that his heart was beating so loudly it might alert the enemy. Blood flows to the limbs and bones with the pumping of the heart. Konohamaru felt the heat in his limbs and gripped the kunai tighter. The good news is that with my heart beating so fast, my whole body feels warm and I seem less nervous. Now. He controlled his steps with difficulty, getting closer and closer to the secret sentry's position. Finally, at a certain point, Konohamaru suddenly realized that the person lying on the ground less than 10 meters in front of him, staring blankly, appeared to be the enemy. The other party was also stunned to see Konohamaru stumbling toward him. In the middle of the night, 3 half-grown children ran in front of me, looking drunk, which would leave anyone bewildered. In the dimness of the night, the other party saw what the 3 were wearing. Although I couldn't see it clearly, what he was wearing on his head was clearly a ninja forward protector. There were enemies. The horrified sentry remembered to shout loudly. But it was too late. Although Konohamaru was nervous, he was a ninja after all. He had one in each hand. As soon as they spotted the enemy, the 3 six-handed sentries threw their kunai. 6 kunai flew straight toward the enemy sentry, and although their accuracy was somewhat lacking, 5 of them hit their target. Puchy puchy, with the sound of the sharp blade piercing flesh, the sentry's body shuddered suddenly and collapsed to the ground, exhausted. The thump sound of him hitting the ground woke his companions. That's right, one of the 2 sentries Konohamaru and his 2 companions were facing was the one Hinata Hanabi had seen sleeping. When Konohamaru saw the sentry awake, he realized there weren't just 1, but 2. Luckily, the other one was asleep. Even if he woke up, he wouldn't be able to grasp the situation for a while because his brain was still not functioning. Seeing the other man's confusion, Konohamaru became enraged for some reason. The tension in my heart seemed to lessen considerably. He reached out, drew 2 kunai from his ninja tool pouch, and threw them again with 2 swish-swish sounds. 4 shurikens from Yuden, Mo, and Wong followed, returning the newly awakened sentry to his slumber. Before my eyes, both enemies were killed. Konohamaru also regained consciousness. He first inhaled the fresh scent of blood, and then he understood what had just happened. I killed someone. The smell of blood grew increasingly thick in the air. The sentry's body gradually turned into a cold, pale corpse due to blood loss. Seeing this scene, Konohamaru's face paled, and the little food he had eaten earlier began to churn in his stomach. Although he was prepared, although he had long known that this was a ninja's fate, he was still shocked to see the enemy die under their attack. Yuden, Mo, and Wong, who were behind them, weren't much better. Especially Meng Wong, the girls were naturally clean. Seeing the bright red blood gushing from the enemy's body and splattering the undergrowth and dirt, the visual impact made her decide that in the next battle, she shouldn't approach the enemy if she could engage them from a distance. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to eat for the next few days. No, she didn't want to eat now. A minute later, the 3 of them had recovered. Konohamaru paled and was the first to ask, "Are you alright? Let's continue if we can. If it's too late, that guy will get all the mission objectives." Yuden and Mo Wong raised their heads and insisted, "It's okay, let's keep going." The 3 of them were lucky. The sentry was some distance from where the bandits lived, which gave them a respite after killing him, easing the discomfort of their first kill. The 3 of them didn't have much luck either. Because when they had covered most of the way, the dormitory was getting closer and closer, and the mission objective was right in front of them, an accident happened. It was dark night, and Konohamaru and the other 2 were a little nervous, so they just walked silently, paying no attention to what was under their feet. By the time Konohamaru realized that his fingers seemed to have touched something strange, it was too late. Accompanied by a faint click from the machine's expansion. The next second, there was a bang-bang from the machine's amplifier, and then the sound of a blizzard breaking beside them. Oh no, the enemy is ready. A flash of lightning crossed Konohamaru's mind. He only had time to shout, "Get down," before the arrows continued to fly over his body. 50 meters behind him, Ebisu, who was silently following the 3, slapped his forehead without saying a word. Luckily, the enemy's attack power was mediocre. Although the 3 had accidentally triggered it, they reacted quickly and dodged the arrows before they could reach them. Aside from the fear, they were unharmed. Konohamaru crawled to his feet and, seeing that the 3 were safe, breathed a sigh of relief. Then, his heart sank again. Exposed. Although the enemy's tactics hadn't caused them any casualties, they had served as a warning. Whether it was the earlier barrage of arrows or his reminder from a moment ago, it was enough to rouse the slumbering enemy. What sound? What's wrong? What happened? Enemy attack. Enemy attack. Enemy attack. Sister-in-law. Enemy attack. Brothers, take up your weapons. Accompanied by the clamor, Konohamaru and the other 2 looked at each other helplessly. The infiltration failed. Prepare the detonating talismans now. Boom, boom, boom. If it takes any longer, the detonating talisman won't be as useful. Konohamaru and the other 2 didn't hesitate to use the detonating tags on their hands and blasted most of the enemy off as soon as they reacted. Along with the flames, the houses of earth, stone, and wood collapsed one after another, and several bandits were crushed under the rubble before they could even pull up their pants and make a run for it. Time ticked by second, and as figure after figure rushed at Konohamaru with the sound of the wind, he knew the toughest battle had begun. Dazzling flames, shurikens and hidden weapons clashed, dripping bright red blood. Kill them, kill them. They're just ignorant little devils, damn it. They're ninja sent by Konoha, kill them quickly, kill those 2 men first. The bandits' noise grew louder, mixed with curses directed at Kei's festival Mocha, and anger flashed across her face. Her hand movements became less fluid, and she was in danger for a moment. Fortunately, Konohamaru and Yuden were always on the lookout to protect her, and the bandit's individual strength wasn't very great, so Mocha wasn't hurt. Mo Wang, don't get distracted. Chapter 379 This is hell. Test. I know, Meng Wang's face tightened, and she said coldly. Her comrades' reminders made her realize that these bandits' foul language was also a common tactic for dealing with the enemy. She shouldn't stoop to such stupidity. The most important thing was to kill the enemy with all her heart. But even so, her movements began to distort, her anger rising. There was no other reason. The scene before her eyes was simply too bloody. Blood gushed out, and limbs exploded. The bandits' faces were captivating in the firelight, and the wails and screams of the wounded in pools of blood were terrifying. Meng Huang's hands trembled. And they trembled more and more. Not only her, but Yuden and Konohamaru were in a similar situation. They were just Jinan. A Jinan freshly graduated from the Ninja Academy on his first mission. They thought they were ready to become true ninjas, and after seeing blood for the first time, they were lucky enough to have a brief respite and overcome their initial discomfort. They thought they were used to killing, but in reality, they weren't. When blood and flesh spilled before your eyes, the ghastly murderous intent on the enemy's face and the remorse for death lingered before my eyes. The savage laughter and dying screams of their own kind, as they sought to end each other's lives, were like foul sin rising from the underworld, creating a vivid scene before the eyes of several people. Hell. It turns out that a ninja's life isn't about greatness and fame, nor about flowers and applause. The smoke was clogging their airways, burning their throats. There seemed to be a hint of gray before my eyes. I didn't know if it was because the smoke was too thick or because the enemy's soul had turned to resentment and blinded me. The kunai began to crack, and Konohamaru threw it away with trembling hands. When he pulled a spare kunai from his ninja tool bag, several scars appeared on his body despite his best efforts to dodge. Even more so, and he showed signs of being uncontrollable. Konohamaru didn't want to admit it, but deep down he knew. I'm scared. Terrified. He wasn't afraid of the enemy wasn't stronger than them. He wasn't afraid of death. The boy's passion made him incapable of fully understanding what death meant. In his opinion, death was only the hope of burning Konoha and illuminating the village's future, just like his grandfather. Konohamaru wondered as he waved his kunai in a daze. Are you still afraid of this world, which has always been filled with death and hatred? I'm still afraid of myself. I feared that my future life as a ninja would be shrouded in blood and resentment. He feared that the great ninja path he so longed for would become a beautiful flower that could only bloom in hell. Konohamaru no longer knew if it was his heart or his body that trembled. He only felt that there were more and more enemies in front of him, and the kunai he held tightly in his hand seemed to have more cracks. His hands were sticky, and he didn't know if it was his own blood or the enemy's. Everything should end quickly. As the three struggled to stay afloat, a shadow hid beneath the roots of a tree dozens of meters behind them. Ebisu followed closely behind. Uchiha Aoi's team was protected by Suzumiya Musashi, so all he had to do was protect his comrades. After seeing the discomfort of the three at the sight of blood for the first time, he seemed concerned. After seeing Konohamaru carelessly activate the mechanism, he looked. Seeing the official start of the fierce battle, he held his breath and began to focus on the coming fight. Don't do anything weird, he shouted, and after throwing shurikens to eliminate a few enemies, a hint of satisfaction finally flickered in his eyes. Luckily, even though these three guys hadn't been very reliable before, at least they hadn't embarrassed themselves. As the battle dragged on, when Moji, Konohamaru, and the other two seemed to be in bad shape and their eyes started to wander, Ebisu's gaze fixed on them. Here it comes, he whispered to himself. As a Jonin of Konoha and an elite teacher, he knew the current state of the three very well. This wasn't the awkwardness of a young man killing for the first time, but the shock of faith a Jinan experiences after his first encounter with large-scale slaughter. Killing is the central theme of the ninja world. However, in this constant carnage, many people don't realize how much flesh and blood, how many screams and howls there is. Today, Konohamaru and the other two finally saw it with their own eyes. What is the true life of the ninja world and of ninjas? Although the enemy is only a group of Ronin, the essence of the killing is the same. Now it depends on how long Konohamaru and his companions can hold out and what kind of performance they put on. If they manage to survive, their future will be bright. Otherwise, their future ninja career will be difficult. Master. Bandit Suppression Mission. In Konoha, training has always been the best mission for Jinan. Seeing blood quickly, killing a lot, and having a controllable enemy force are the best ways for a Junin to grow rapidly. Due to these numerous advantages, and the fact that there weren't many large-scale bandits in the Land of Fire, bandit suppression became a popular task for the graduating class, and every team leader coveted it. Only talented Junin, or highly prestigious Junin teams, would be assigned to bandit suppression missions. Ordinary graduating classes wouldn't even get the chance. Therefore, when a large group of bandits appeared on the border of the Land of Fire, Tsunade sent 2 Junin classes to carry out the mission together, maximizing the benefits. However, although the bandit suppression mission was quickly effective, it had certain side effects. For Junin of average temperament, the large number of deaths during the mission could easily cause some mental trauma. In more severe cases, many abandoned their ninja careers and became logistics or medical ninja. Based on past experience, a Junin's performance when experiencing a massacre for the first time during a bandit suppression mission often determines the peak of their future ninja career. Those who fear killing and suffer psychological trauma may change careers to become medical ninjas or live a mediocre life. Only those who overcome the test with fear and apprehension have the potential to become skilled ninjas. If someone performs well in their first large-scale killing experience, they will be considered a promising talent and, in all likelihood, will become the backbone of the village in the future. Very few people perform perfectly. Uchiha Shisu and Namikaze Minato were such individuals. Each of them is a well-deserved genius ninja, the hope for the future of a great ninja village, and an undisputed leader. Judging by Konohamaru's performance today, it is undoubtedly a mediocre performance. The difference lies in the final outcome, whether he becomes a skilled ninja, a promising talent, or an excellent seed who can stand on his own 2 feet. Chapter 380 The Style of Uchiha. Ebisu certainly hoped the other side belonged to the latter group. If Konohamaru's performance met his expectations, it would not only demonstrate his level of training but also provide an explanation to his former leader after the death of the 3rd Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen. Come on, Konohamaru, don't dishonor the Sarutobi family. Hold on. Time became extremely difficult to bear at that moment. Fortunately, as the battle progressed, Ebisu's heart gradually lifted. Not bad at all. Konohamaru, who was experiencing a brutal battle for the first time, delivered a performance that met his expectations. Although he wasn't used to killing for the first time, he managed to overcome it. Although he triggered the trap set by the bandits by mistake, there were no fatal errors. In the process of fighting the enemy, he was still able to unleash his full potential, knew how to take care of his comrades, and tried his best to cooperate. That was enough. As for the flawless performance, with the bearing of a cage, he wasn't crazy. Knowing Konohamaru's level, he wouldn't harbor naive hopes for him. The blood on the ground thickened. Wounds also appeared on Yuden Moho's body one after another, and Konohamaru's arms gradually deformed. Knives came from behind. The sword was as bright as silver, and it resembled a long sickle and a shining moon when wielded. Ebisu's pupils instantly shrank, and the next instant, he sighed softly inwardly. It's over. The Ronin who appeared was obviously no ordinary bandit. Whether it was his impetuousness or the speed he displayed while marching, everything demonstrated his strength. This was a swordsman. A swordsman whose strength was no less than that of an ordinary ninja. With Konohamaru's current state, he would be no match for the opponent. The truth was exactly what he thought. Hands, quick. Faster. Finally, the seal was completed before the enemy arrived. Fire style, Ranju, swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. A series of fireballs shot from Konohamaru's hand and hurtled toward the 2 enemies in front of him. This was the only fire-style ninjutsu he could currently perform, barely reaching C rank. It was also his only hope. The enemy's strength exceeded Konohamaru's expectations. As the fireball flew, the 2 Ronin didn't panic. It was clear they had experience fighting ninjas. The moment the fireball approached, they both stepped aside in unspoken agreement. Their figures were swift, their toes repeatedly striking the ground, their bodies forming a symmetrical arc, and in an instant they were in front of Konohamaru. The katana stopped the side shuriken and also shattered the kunai Konohamaru drew again. He raised his katana high, ready to end his opponent's life. Is it over? Konohamaru's numb eyes showed a trace of regret. He wanted to raise his hands, but his trembling hands were numb from the immense force. He wanted to perform ninjutsu, but neither his body nor his chakra could do it. He knew his first mission had come to an end. The wind suddenly picked up. The moment the 2 Ronin were about to slash with their swords, Their expressions changed drastically. Then they drew their swords without hesitation. Ignoring Konohamaru, unable to defend himself, he quickly returned. Bah! A strong arm caught Konohamaru's shoulders as he was about to fall. He slowly turned his head and saw Ebisu's familiar face. It's okay, he felt a little embarrassed for not having completed the mission. Yes, it's over, Ebisu nodded. Seeing Konohamaru's sour expression, though still somewhat disappointed, he didn't criticize him as usual, but instead comforted him. Well done, he heard the other's affirmation. He turned his head with a great effort and only felt relief when he saw that his companions Yuden and Moji were alright. Then, suddenly, he thought of something and hurriedly said, Master Ebisu, the enemy is still unclear. Those two Ronin are no ordinary bandits, Ebisu said. It's alright. Konohamaru looked confused. Don't you need to pursue them? Although his team had practically lost combat effectiveness, the mission wasn't complete. Including the northern slope of the mountain, there were a total of 71 enemies. Excluding the 29 they had defeated, 42 still remained. Especially the two Ronin who appeared at the end, obviously stronger. As the leader, should Ebisu continue pursuing them? Of course, Ebisu knew what he meant. However, it was no longer necessary. He shook his head with a slightly ironic smile and said, There's no need to chase them. Look, receiving Ebisu's visual cue, Konohamaru turned his head in confusion. Then, he saw a scene he would never forget. A few meters ahead. What caught his attention was Uchiha 50. But the other person at that moment no longer seemed the same as he knew. The clean ninja uniform was now covered in bright red blood stains. The longsword was like a cold moon, slicing through space. The sleeves of the clothing billowed like flags. He radiated an icy temper. The blade flashed, and two crescent moons seemed to appear at the same time, slicing through the cold air and the throats of the two Ronin who had defeated Konohamaru. Before dying, he still had white eyes, his throat bleeding, and he stared at Uchiha's face, full of fear and disbelief. Plop, plop, the corpse fell to the ground, striking Konohamaru in the heart. Uchiha stood there, glancing at him. The buildings and vegetation set ablaze by the detonating talismans were still burning, the intense flames further darkening the pre-dawn darkness. Through the blood and burnt smoke, Konohamaru could only make out most of Uchiha's profile. Her features were delicate and almost perfect, her expression as cold as a knife. Her eyes shone with a dazzling gleam beneath her long, black hair, which swayed in the wind. Blood red, like crystal. Chapter 381 Genius Uchiha. Observing this scene, Konohamaru, his three companions, and Ebisu remained silent. Astonishment, despair, fear, and shock reigned in Konohamaru's heart, and a single thought began to take root within him. A mixture of emotions churned his chest and stomach. Ebisu, too, felt conflicted as he watched Uchiha begin to display her charm. He sighed sincerely. Uchiha genius, Konoha, another figure resembling Minato Shiso has appeared. Time flashes back to before the battle began. Uchiha, informed by Hinata Hanabi, arrived at the seated position of the secret sentry. She waited silently, her gaze fixed straight ahead. There was no fear in her heart, only determination to complete the task. She knew that Suzumiya Musashi must be behind her at that moment, watching her. Not even a little. When the appointed time arrived, Uchiha didn't hesitate and immediately dashed from her position. She held a knife in one hand and two kunai in the other, moving with incredible speed. But she didn't make a sound. With her excellent eyesight, every blade of grass and every tree in front of her was quickly etched into her memory, and every step she took was perfect. When the local secret sentry spotted her, he saw only a faint black shadow. Before he could see what it was, two kunai had already struck the two men with pinpoint accuracy in their throats. One-shot kill. After killing the two secret sentries, Uchiha didn't advance. She lowered her head, and her excellent eyesight allowed her to see the enemy clearly in the darkness. A face frozen in panic, slovenly attire, sticky blood oozing from the neck. As the scent of blood filled her nostrils, the other person's body gradually paled. She watched intently, familiarizing herself with the sensation of killing. She vomited, so she prepared herself in advance to better adapt to the coming battle. But the outcome exceeded her expectations. Standing before the enemy corpses, Uchiha discovered she felt no fear whatsoever. Even after seeing the frozen faces of the other and the bright red blood, she felt nothing. Only a slight stomachache. The simple disgust at seeing something filthy was insignificant compared to the importance she placed on Suzumiya Musashi's opinion of her. She wondered if this was normal for her, but after a few seconds, the doubt vanished. Many years ago, when she was still in Uchiha Izumi's arms, she had witnessed scenes countless times more tragic than this. Compared to Hitoyon's experience, the carnage before her was insignificant. She felt an immediate sense of relief. She understood the ninja world and ninjas better than anyone else in her class. Whether it was killing or enemies, she was truly prepared, and her sole objective was to follow her brother. For this, she had to give it her all. No more distractions. Uchiha Aoi gripped a longsword in her hand and walked into the night ahead. Onward. The darkness of the night was no obstacle for her. The enemy's traps were like toys to her. She was like a swift cheetah, galloping swiftly across her territory, cutting through building after building. The longsword sliced, ending one life after another. The mission objective, the enemy, the evil bandits. What she sought was perfection, strength, and that figure. The rest wasn't worth worrying about. Her mind grew slowly amidst the carnage, and the sword became ever brighter as it swung. By the time the sound of imposing talismans detonating reached her from afar, she had already completed 19 mission objectives. Whether she had gotten up to urinate, or woken up by the explosion, or by the smell of blood, Uchiha Aoi didn't overthink it and used the same method as Konohamaru. There were about 10 buildings left that might be occupied. He drew 10 shurikens, each one strapped with an explosive talisman. As his chakra surged, 10 detonating tags ignited simultaneously. He didn't even need to look closely. With a flick of his wrist, 10 detonating shurikens flew toward 10 different buildings at once, shattering windows and shooting back into the room. Boom 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 boom. His attack had a far greater effect than Konohamaru's and the others. All 10 talismans detonated at precisely the right time and place. He didn't even hear any screams. With buildings shattered, flames splattering, and occasionally severed limbs and arms flying through the air, he didn't know how many enemies were killed. Now wasn't the time to count them. Uchiha Aoi gripped a longsword tightly in her hand, her gaze fixed on the spot where the enemy might appear like an eagle. Now was the time to kill. The razor-sharp blade sliced through the air, throats slashed and limbs flew everywhere. Chakra surged, wind blades shot out, and flames erupted. Uchiha Aoi's movements were precise and graceful, striking fear into the hearts of weaker foes. When the savage bandits summoned their accomplices to attack together, Uchiha Aoi followed Suzumiya Musashi's instructions and played with unwavering resolve, using ninjutsu to clear a path from a distance. Wherever they went, there were constant screams, curses, and cries calling for their parents. Gradually, Uchiha Aoi, too, felt a little weary. So many lives were lost at her hands, and this eventually took its toll on her mentality. But her sword movements remained steady and precise. At some point, a red light flashed in her eyes. Uchiha Aoi's movements began to accelerate. Common bandits were easily dispatched with a single blow from her longsword. If she encountered a stronger bandit, she used even more force in her strike. They appeared before her, and she could then analyze the strength and power of her opponents through their movements and speed. She wielded her sword with varying intensity depending on the enemy. Judging by her performance, it was as easy as eating melons and vegetables, and few could match her. The two were also shocked. They looked at each other and saw the surprise in their eyes. Although they knew their companion was exceptional, they couldn't imagine that a talented girl, always calm in the village, would be so ferocious on the battlefield. Without time to say anything, they quickly joined the battle and helped Uchiha Aoi eliminate the enemies. With a combined effort of the three of them, the number of enemies rapidly decreased, and some of those already struggling to stay afloat also staggered and crawled to the other side. I only regret that my parents didn't give me 2 more legs. Do you want to rest? Murakami Daichi stopped panting and looked at them with some concern, especially at Uchiha Aoi. He was a little worried about the other's condition. I've poisoned the target. Don't worry, they can't get far. Chapter 382 Double Magatama. Knowing the other side was thinking of him, Uchiha Aoi shook his head. Keep pursuing him, Konohamaru and his gang are on the other side. The implication was that he had no expectations of the other group. If the mission target escaped, it would require even more effort. Murakami Daichi and the other man had no choice but to agree. The three then attacked together, forming a triangle, with Uchiha Aoi attacking in the center and the other two flanking on either side. Among them, Hinata Hanabi's movements were the most common. She used shurikens in conjunction with her gentle fist to attack. Her gentle fist, precise and ferocious, summoned the 8 diagrams and the 64 palms with great effectiveness, killing any enemy she encountered. Murakami Daichi's methods were more diverse. When facing an enemy, his first option was not usually a frontal assault, nor was it a second, third, or sixth option. When facing an enemy, he used various methods he had developed. The most common weapons included hidden arms and crossbows, the most advanced, poison and smoke. At that moment, words seemed rather flimsy. Hinata Hanabi saw with her own eyes that, facing 2 enemies attacking her simultaneously, Murakami Daichi calmly drew the scroll from his arms and unfurled it before him. A large group of generous girls rushed at the enemy with a fair and open attitude. They charged forward like elderly people scrambling for eggs at the supermarket. The enemy didn't even see them fully before, gripped by panic, they were cut down by the smoother blade. Seeing this, Murakami Daichi smiled calmly, sheathed the scroll, and calmly brandished the poisonous blade. The fallen enemies wore expressions of sadness, joy, surprise, and so on. If someone unaware of the truth were to see this, they would think that this group of people didn't die at the hands of a single individual, but rather at the hands of a group of shameless enemies. Hinata Hanabi, how shameful! After cursing her comrades, Hinata Hanabi rallied and accelerated her attack. She had to speed up because Uchiha Aoi, in front of her, was moving too fast. If she didn't accelerate, she would fall far behind. Nausea, disgust, depression. This was a direct consequence of the mass death of her own kind, and not even Uchiha Aoi could prevent it. She could only picture Suzumiya Musashi's back in her heart. A firm and generous figure, as if he could always be in front of her. Hold on, I can't stop. Uchiha Aoi stared ahead, her eyes bloodshot. It was as if she saw a familiar shadow stretching toward her. The sword light suddenly became faster. As the light and shadow swirled, a sound pierced the air, shocking Hinata Hanabi and the others. How can this be? She might be even faster. Murakami Daichi even covered his head with his hands, his expression a mixture of bewilderment and pain. Isn't she tired? Hinata Hanabi couldn't help but warn, Aoi. Watch out, she feared the other might become careless in their murderous zeal. Uchiha Aoi heard her, but she didn't care at all. She only felt the figure in front of her becoming sharper and closer. Her pupils felt slightly hot and stinging. A powerful force suddenly surged from her, and her body, originally weary, was stimulated by this force and regained its energy. You, brother, pow! A flash of knife light. In an instant, the two pierced the heart. The few remaining enemies began to flee frantically, some kneeling and begging for mercy, while others collapsed and ran. After dealing with a few enemies blocking her path, Uchiha Aoi ignored the soldiers fleeing in all directions and left Hinata Hanabi and the others to handle them. She looked ahead. In the darkness of the night, in a place that ordinary people couldn't see clearly, she saw the exhausted Konohamaru and 2 Ronin with swords at their best. Judging by their movements, their strength was quite considerable. Among the enemies who had fallen beneath her sword before, only 2 or 3 could compare to her. Obviously, in Konohamaru's current state, both mentally and physically, she wasn't strong enough to deal with such an opponent. Thinking of this, Uchiha Aoi began to accelerate. Faster. Faster. She could see clearly every blade of grass and every tree in front of them, and she could even see the wind direction through the floating smoke and dust. The whole person became a black shadow in the wind, flying at full speed. Konohamaru performed a childish fire escape technique, as if it were a joke, and held the longsword upside down. Konohamaru's weapon was knocked down by the enemy, and she jumped. Her light body drew an elegant arc in the air. 2 Ronin who were fleeing from Ebisu's appearance saw her. Impressive. Impressive. Terrifying. Too late. The opponent's dodge seemed so obvious and clumsy to Uchiha Aoi, so clumsy that she didn't even need to exert much effort to dodge and find the opponent's opening. Then she surrendered the sword she held in her hand. Bang! In a line of red blood and white blades, 2 enemies were decapitated. The battle was over. When her body fell to the ground, Uchiha Aoi felt a little tired. Instantly next, she turned her face to the side, her gaze sweeping over her companions, Konohamaru and Ebisu, and settling on the shape of Uchiha Aoi's head. Because her bun was untied, the feeling was slightly different than before, but overall it was fine. She lowered her head and looked directly into Uchiha Aoi's eyes. The 4 Magatama were like dots of ink, clearly visible in her red eyes. She sighed inwardly, sensing both the other's excellence and her pain. She withdrew her head from her companion's hand, raised it, and her ruby eyes shone expectantly. "Brother, how am I?" Suzumiya Musashi paused and then confirmed matter-of-factly. Very well, I'm proud of you." Not far away, Ebisu rolled his eyes discreetly. Suzumiya Musashi then said, "Aoi, the battle is over, what do you think?" Uchiha Aoi considered it. The eyes of Musashi opened his eyes and said earnestly, "Blood tastes awful, killing is disgusting, so, brother, I want to follow you, let's make the ninja world less troublesome." Dawn finally arrived slowly. The girl's earnest voice echoed in the smoke and morning breeze like a promise. Chapter 383 Konoha, I will not admit defeat. Suzumiya Musashi sighed inwardly. The talent and character displayed in Uchiha Aoi's acting and answers today could be considered the best among the children he had ever seen. He had to admit that such a child was truly endearing. He was in a very bad mood, and Ebisu, who was following close behind, was in an even worse one. Upon hearing Uchiha Aoi's answer to Suzumiya Musashi's question, he felt a strong shock. Simple, yet the meaning contained so much thought and determination that he could undoubtedly perceive it, and for an instant, the complexity in his heart was indescribable, and envy and jealousy almost overwhelmed him. A feeling of look at other people's children made him feel as if he had a power in his body that he had nowhere to release. He wanted to grab Konohamaru's ears and give him 10 lessons in ideological education. But when he saw Konohamaru, who was secretly sad, all his emotions turned to helplessness. Hey, forget it. Good children belong to others, and bad children are yours. It's all fate, no need to envy it. Finally, dawn broke. When the last flame on the mountain was extinguished by the water escape technique, everyone officially began tallying the battle results. The final tally was quickly tallied. Konohamaru's team killed 29 enemies, and the captain killed 15. Uchiha Aoi's team killed 42 enemies, and the captain killed 28. No one escaped. There were also more than a dozen people who were captured. After negotiations between Uchiha Aoi and Konohamaru, they decided to return. They gave the other group some food, weapons, bows, and arrows. There were no large beasts nearby, so these things were enough for them to walk to the nearby village. Items that were cumbersome to carry were left behind, and several people returned the way they had come, carrying bags large and small. On the way back, Konohamaru didn't try to take over the guard duty, but the two teams took turns, silently carrying out their tasks and barely saying a word along the way. This mission seemed to have taken a heavy toll on him. Ebisu noticed this and became a little worried, so he decided to check on the other person's mental state when they returned to the village. His gaze occasionally drifted between Konohamaru and Uchiha Aoi, comparing them repeatedly in his mind, his envy not diminishing in the slightest. The Uchiha bloodline is truly extraordinary, he sighed. No. Even when the Uchiha were at their peak, ninja talents like Aoi's were rare. Musashi, your teammates are just as good as you were back then. Hearing this, Suzumiya Musashi felt slightly relieved. Ah, Ebisu, Cap. No, you only responded with ahem. What does that mean? And then what? Is there nothing below? Is it true that I don't have a single word of praise from my classmates? What about social etiquette? What about respect for teachers? Ebisu's expression gradually twisted. Just as he was about to blush, Suzumiya Musashi suddenly said something. Ebisu-sensei, your classmates aren't bad either. It's a pleasure to meet such a responsible teacher as yourself. Ebisu, Cap, this Musashi. Although his emotional intelligence isn't very high, he's a very honest person. After another day of walking, they finally arrived in Konoha in the afternoon. I didn't have time to rest. I rushed to the Hokage building to turn in the assignment. Only after handing it in did I have the energy to get a good night's sleep. The Hokage's office. Tsunade was still sprawled on the couch, as usual. She skimmed through the mission logs Ebisu had given her, clicking her tongue as she read. Not bad, the future of the village depends on you. The Hokage needs talented ninjas like you, energetic and lively to take on the responsibility. Suzumiya Musashi's face seemed a little astonished. He discovered that, as Tsunade spent more time in the Hokage position, her personality changed more and more. He was so skilled with the official rhetoric and empty promises he had initially hated that he had now become extremely adept at them. He didn't want to talk to such a person, fearing he would be assigned troublesome tasks for no reason. After delivering the assignment, he hurriedly left the Hokage building. Tsunade watched him go, turned her head, and spat softly. Damn it. You've only been gone a few days and you're in such a hurry to get home, she asked. Instead, She remained silent beside Konohamaru. Two figures, one large and one small, walked through the streets of Konoha, their shadows lengthening. Along the way, Ebisu pondered how to comfort the depressed Konohamaru to prevent the previous mission from breaking him. Until they were almost at the Sarutobi clan's territory, he didn't know what to say. Konohamaru suddenly stopped beside Ebisu, who also stopped hurriedly. "Well, Konohamaru, actually, I want to tell you, Master Ebisu." Konohamaru suddenly interrupted Ebisu's nonsense. He raised his head and looked directly into Ebisu's surprised eyes, his expression serious. "I won't give up." Then, as if speaking to the other person, or perhaps to himself, he repeated, "I won't give up. Konohamaru, I admit there's a huge gap between Aoi and me right now, but, Master Ebisu, I promise, someday I'll surpass her." Ebisu suddenly felt embarrassed. For a moment, he hesitated whether to be pleased or complain. He wanted to say, "Stop dreaming. At your level, it's extremely difficult to keep up with her, let alone surpass her." He couldn't say it. He wanted to encourage the other person and reaffirm their aspirations, but he couldn't even say it. Adults don't lie too much. While he remained silent, Konohamaru had already left. Ugh, Konohamaru heard a sigh behind him. But he didn't look back. The words he'd just spoken seemed directed at Ebisu, but he was really speaking to himself. Uchiha Aoi. With such an incredible partner, could I really catch up to him? He wasn't sure. But what he was sure of was that he had no choice. Only by considering the other person his goal and moving forward at full speed could he prevent his Taoism from crumbling. As for the rest, who cared? Once in a lifetime. He'd seen too many people, so he had to become a ninja at the mountain top. Reach her, surpass her, become the strongest, become Hokage. Chapter 384, Farming, a straw that saves lives. The goal was set, the only difficulty was that the gap was too wide. Ebisu's teachings weren't bad, and the training exercises he'd set were suitable for him. But, he was too slow. If this continued, the gap might only widen. How do I do it? What should I do? After a while, Konohamaru's gaze hardened. Great move. He wanted to learn more powerful ninjutsu, highly destructive ninjutsu that could rival Uchiha Aoi's. If Ebisu couldn't give it to him, he'd go to the clan and find it. If the clan didn't have it, he'd go out and find it. Oh, and there was Naruto too. His most admired brother, Naruto, must have a way to surpass Uchiha Aoi. In the following days, the pace of life in Suzumiya Musashi returned to a comfortable level. There were no major movements among the leading ninja nations, nor any large-scale wars. Rumors circulated among the higher-ups that Akatsuki was ready to act, but it had nothing to do with the current Suzumiya Musashi. There were no major movements, only routine tasks. Tsunade, contrary to her usual practice, didn't train Suzumiya Musashi, leaving him free to do as he pleased. Of course, this was also related to the fact that Suzumiya Musashi had completed his previous mission with excessive excellence. He would consider it carefully and then give up after careful thought. This also led Suzumiya Musashi to become one of the few slackers in Konoha. Every day, besides babysitting and tutoring a few useless children, he would go home to join Ayame for running laps. Naturally, Suzumiya Musashi accepted his good brother's invitation and participated with great enthusiasm. Furthermore, Uchiha Aoi and the others were the Jonin on his team. Whenever Might Guy invites someone, he also invites some Jonin to join him, and he doesn't turn them down. In the words of Suzumiya Musashi, as a ninja, it's most shameful to retain shame. Aside from the person you truly love, nothing is more important than practice. This is also one of the few times Uchiha Aoi doesn't want to be with Suzumiya Musashi. One day. The sky is perfect. At the gate of Konoha village, there were occasional pedestrians. Occasionally, street vendors or ninja patrolled there, and without realizing it, they paid their respects at a specific point on the street, inside the village entrance. 1, 2, 3, 4. The mottos on their uniforms echoed loudly. Uchiha Aoi felt her toes cramp with embarrassment. She wasn't the only one embarrassed, Hinata Hanabi was too. Because Suzumiya Musashi had ordered the 3 members of his team to practice aloud. Suzumiya Musashi, Might Guy, and Rock Lee stood face down at the village entrance, like 3 straight javelins stuck in the ground. The 3 figures, 1 yellow and 2 green, were the brightest points of light at the village entrance. Uchiha Aoi and the other 2, as well as Tenten and Hyuga Niji, who were struggling to keep their heads down, were practicing frog jumps not far away. This time it wasn't Suzumiya Musashi's idea, but Might Guy's. In his words, young ninjas needed stronger bodies, and frog jumps were an excellent exercise for strengthening the heart, lungs, and lower limbs. Suzumiya Musashi nodded without hesitation. Sage of Six Paths, did I do anything terrible in my previous life? Hinata Hanabi, always dignified and polite, couldn't help but mutter under her breath. Why do I have to do this in my life? Uchiha sighed and said, just be patient, once my brother makes up his mind. It's useless to resist. If you don't want to commit any more shameful acts, listen to me and do it right. Hinata Hanabi wanted to cry, but she had no tears. She turned to Murakami Daichi, who had remained silently by her side, and said, great wisdom, aren't you ashamed? Murakami Daichi was taken aback. Uncomfortable, a little, but I was thinking, why would such behavior embarrass me? Where does this shame come from? Is it from my actions? Or from other people's stares? How can such shame be artificially controlled? Furthermore, if I understand the origin and pattern of this shame, can I use it to develop my ninjutsu? Lately, I feel like my research has stalled. My four beauties technique to confuse the heart hasn't progressed in a long time. If I can decipher the conditions for the birth of shame, perhaps my ninjutsu can improve even further. Hinata Hanabi began to regret why she had spoken to Murakami Daichi. She wanted to silently perform frog jumps like Uchiha Aoi, but found she couldn't do it at all. The shame made her involuntarily look around. At one point, her eyes fell on Hyuga Niji, who, with his keen intuition, noticed that someone was watching him, so he unconsciously looked up, and their eyes met in midair. Hinata Hanabi, idiot. What am I doing? Why am I staring at Niji-sama? Besides, I didn't expect the always cold brother Niji to have this side. The way he does frog jumps is really funny. No. I must look just as funny. Damn it, Hyuga Niji, Boyle, why did you let Hanabi see this embarrassing moment? It's over. I'm no longer the cool, powerful older brother of my clan, Master Kai, I hate you. Might Guy, who was standing upside down on the ground, constantly bobbing up and down, still had some strength left and absorbed everything that was happening. He said to Suzumiya Musashi, who was standing upside down next to him, Musashi, at that moment, Hinata Hanabi longed to see some short-sighted thieves attack Konoha's gate. That way, she could stand up. Risk her life. Fight without hesitation. Attack the enemy. Then make a mistake. Be careless. Heroically injure herself. In that case, she wouldn't have to suffer here. But her plan was doomed to fail. Not even the most foolish thief would be stupid enough to attack Konoha's village gate. Just when Hinata Hanabi felt completely hopeless and thought she was destined to. Suddenly, her eyes fell upon the village entrance. Then, her eyes lit up. As if she had seen a straw that would save her life. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 385 Naruto Returns, a touching reunion. At the village entrance, Hiruno Sakura carried a basket of flowers and was about to go inside. She glanced around casually and, naturally, noticed three bright and conspicuous figures, one yellow and two green. Although she had seen this scene many times, she still felt incredibly embarrassed by the other person. Suddenly, she felt as if she were being watched. Perhaps it was a coincidence, or perhaps Hinata Hanabi's Byakugan was too strong for others to notice. In any case, Hiruno Sakura's gaze met Hinata Hanabi's. Seeing the other person's anxious, bright eyes, Hiruno Sakura instinctively sensed that something was wrong. The next instant, she followed her instinct, covered her face with her hands, and ran quickly, hugging the wall. Unfortunately, it was too late. Sister Sakura, Hinata Hanabi exclaimed in a kind and excited voice. If someone unaware of the situation saw them, they would think they were close relatives who hadn't seen each other in a long time. Sister Sakura, Hinata Hanabi called out to her affectionately and excitedly, then casually stopped her frog hopping and took 2 steps closer to Hiruno Sakura. Despite covering her face with her hands, she took a step forward and grasped her hand. Her hand was slender and long, and it felt nice. Sakura-san. It's been so long, after so long, you've become even more beautiful. How, is that so? Hiruno Sakura was a little confused. Of course, Hinata Hanabi said, "Look at your skin, it's so white and translucent, and your hands seem much thinner than before, Hiruno Sakura, it's like we didn't know each other before? And, take your hands off me." Hiruno Sakura struggled a little, thinking it would be easy, but she couldn't break free. Hinata Hanabi showed how tightly she held her. "Sister Sakura, what have you been up to lately?" Sister Hinata said she hasn't seen you in a while. She said you've been practicing medical ninjutsu with Lady Tsunade lately. Is that true? Sister Sakura, you're amazing. Hiruno Sakura was a little confused. Yes. I have been practicing medical ninjutsu lately. We don't have enough herbs at home, so I just picked some fresh ones outside the village. Wow. Hinata Hanabi looked at Hiruno Sakura's basket of flowers and exclaimed in surprise. Really? It still has dew on it? Sister Sakura, you're amazing. You're beautiful, kind, and you know medical ninjutsu too. No wonder Sister Hinata said you're the best ninja in your class. She was right. I admire you too, Shianshin. Hiruno Sakura, huh? Really? Hey, Hiruno Sakura felt her mind becoming increasingly confused. Hinata Hanabi used every social skill she had learned in the clan against her at that moment, and her overwhelming flattery left Hiruno Sakura stunned. Hinata Hanabi didn't ask for anything more, she just wanted the other party to get her out of there. Of course, these methods of hers couldn't be hidden from most of those present. However, whether out of friendship or compassion for their kind, Uchiha Aoi, Tenten, and the others didn't reveal the truth and allowed Hinata Hanabi to talk to Hiruno Sakura as they walked further and further away. Suzumiya Musashi, naturally, also knew Hinata Hanabi's little thoughts. He simply didn't care, or didn't have time to worry. Because Might Guy had practiced a handstand more than he had. He was so scared that he quickly composed his thoughts and concentrated on practicing. Just as he was practicing, with a sudden, sharp crack of air, a sound of air breaking came from the sky. Before Suzumiya Musashi could lift his head, he heard a loud bang, like the sound of a heavy object hitting the ground. The next second, an arrogant laugh echoed from atop the Konoha gate. Ha 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 ha, everyone in the village. Uzumaki Naruto, I'm back, a familiar yet strange voice. Arrogant and annoying lines. Suzumiya Musashi's figure froze suddenly. Then, ignoring Might Guy's petulant laughter, ha ha ha, I'm better than you, Musashi. He braced himself on the ground with his hands, jumped up, and stood in the middle of Konoha Street. He raised his head, his eyes scanning the distance until they settled on the figure above the Konoha gate. Uzumaki Naruto has grown up. The boy who always haunted my memory has now become a tall, upright young man. He extended his arms stretched out as if to embrace the village, and he laughed heartily above the doorway. His eyebrows and eyes were still the same as he remembered, and his cheeks still bore 3 pairs of sideburns. Suzumiya Musashi's gaze softened instantly. Musashi sighed inwardly. At that moment, Uzumaki Naruto, standing above the doorway, seemed to sense something, lowered his head slightly, and looked towards Suzumiya Musashi. Then, his eyes widened in surprise. Suzumiya Musashi laughed. He saw Uzumaki Naruto leap through the doorway, and it was as if he saw the little boy leaping into his eyes. He watched Uzumaki Naruto run toward him like a madman, superimposed on the figure who always ran to him happily. He watched Uzumaki Naruto approach, arms outstretched, not at all reserved like a young man, as impulsive as before, and his heart swelled with warmth, and he felt his longing was like the early spring sun, shining in his soul. In an instant, melting away the sadness of 3 years' separation. So he opened his arms, ready to accept his family's passionate affection. The wind blew past my ears. Only one voice remained, sharp as a knife, in his heart. Sakura juice, Suzumiya Musashi, degree. A minute later, Hiruno Sakura rubbed her fists together in disdain. Uzumaki Naruto stood beside her with dark circles under his eyes, staring at Suzumiya Musashi in front of him, whose face was as dark as the bottom of a pot, and scratched his scalp in embarrassment. Hey, boss, have you changed your clothes? I thought I was blinded a moment ago and almost didn't recognize you. Suzumiya Musashi's face darkened as he spoke word by word. You didn't recognize me at all. Uzumaki Naruto scratched his head even harder. That? Boss, your style has changed too much. You've always worn green tights, right? Why did you suddenly switch to yellow? It's strange. A bright light flashed on Suzumiya Musashi's eyes. Really? How strange? Uzumaki Naruto paused, but reacted quickly. Boss, you misheard. He's so handsome. So handsome I didn't recognize him for a second. Really? Suzumiya Musashi's mouth curved coldly. I thought someone would forget someone else upon meeting a girl they like. Suzumiya Musashi didn't finish the words. The next instant, the boy threw himself into his arms. Boss, I missed you so much. Suzumiya Musashi's figure is like a wooden sculpture. He moved his lips as if he wanted to say something, but nothing came out. After a moment, he simply reached out and gently patted him on your back. Get down. It's sinking. I'm glad you're back. Chapter 386 The Harvest in 3 Years. I'll start right away. That evening, at Suzumiya Musashi's house, Uzumaki shouted Naruto with glee and then devoured the sumptuous meal on the table with relish. His eating was like that of a ravenous ghost, which made Uzumaki Karin frown so much that she couldn't help but back away from him. Great. Home-cooked food is simply delicious. I haven't had it in 3 years, and I miss it terribly. Hearing this, a chorus quickly brought him some more and said, don't listen to Musashi's nonsense. Eat some more. Uzumaki Naruto stopped showing his fanaticism, sniffed, and his eyes reddened slightly. Soon he began devouring the food again. Suzumiya Musashi looked at Ayame, who was spoiling the show, with a reproachful expression and said, what are you leaving behind? We still have Pete, he can eat, and at least Pete won't ignore me and will run to hug Sakura. Pete, who was nearly as fat as a ball while eating dog food, jumped and clumsily dropped the high-end meal he was holding. At that moment, Uzumaki Karin's eyes widened, and she interrupted, wait? What happened? Did Naruto hug Sakura? Suzumiya Musashi snorted coldly. He wanted to hug me, but I wouldn't let him. Uzumaki Karin seemed to have done the right thing. You scared me. I was wondering why you came back with dark circles under your eyes. I thought you'd been defeated by the enemy, but this is what happened. Sakura didn't hurt me. I can clearly see it was me. Haha. Uzumaki Karin smiled smugly. You think I'll believe your reasons? Tisk, 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 tisk. You've been gone for 3 years. Sakura may have missed you a lot during these 3 years, but you ruined her impression with just one encounter. If you manage to catch Sakura, I'll give you the name Uzumaki. Bang! Uzumaki Naruto slammed the bowl on the table. Just as Uzumaki Karin thought he might have hurt her with his roughness, Uzumaki Naruto grabbed the chicken leg, held it up, and said, stop looking down on people. I swear on the chicken leg, one day, Uzumaki Naruto, I'll definitely catch up to Sakura. What great ambition. Uzumaki Karin raised her glass of soda and said seriously, follow one, Uzumaki Karin will become the most beautiful kunoichi in the ninja world. Mutual encouragement, Uzumaki Naruto. He heard Uzumaki Karin's teasing and became very, boss, they're really delicious, boss, you have no idea how wonderful my life has been these past 3 years. I encountered thieves stealing things in the land of fire, highway robbers blocking the road in the land of wind, I scuba dived underwater in the land of waves, and I took a hot spring bath in the land of hot springs. I wanted to go up, but for some reason, Jiraiya wouldn't let me go with him. I'm still in the land of iron. After lunch, Uzumaki Naruto, satiated and with no desire to move, lay back peacefully on the sofa. Gazing at the familiar room, the familiar lights, and seeing the older brothers, Changpu, busy clearing the table in front of me, I felt relaxed and comfortable from body to soul. So he began to talk and told everyone about his 3-year spiritual journey. Uzumaki Karin listened attentively at first, but after a few minutes, she gradually frowned. What's this all about? Nothing interesting. She and Tenten also traveled with Suzumiya Musashi. They experienced the strong winds of Zitu Valley, trod the waves of the land of thunder, caught sea fish bigger than the boat, conquered the giant beasts of Beast Island, traveled through the geomagnetic magic swamp of the land of Earth, and even saw the tailed beast Madata. It feels much more interesting than the places described by Uzumaki Naruto. In the past 3 years, the other party had generally been traveling through towns in various countries, and the most repeated word in their conversation was hot springs, 2 words to describe it, boring. So much so that she couldn't help but say, get to the point. Uzumaki Naruto, who wouldn't stop talking, was startled. Why? The reason, of course, it's because he's learned a new ninjutsu. It's like at school, if you haven't seen your friends for a long vacation and you have a new toy or have learned fun tricks, of course you want to ask them how their vacation was so you can brag. Hearing this, Uzumaki Naruto swelled with pride. Of course, things are very different now. I haven't slacked off in the last 3 years. Aside from traveling, taking hot spring baths, and accompanying the lustful immortal on windwalks. I've been constantly practicing. I'm not the same person I was yesterday. Uzumaki Karin's eyes were full of curiosity. Tell me in detail, tell me in detail. Uzumaki Naruto twisted his mouth in satisfaction. For the past 3 years, under the guidance of the lustful sage, I focused on training. Not only has my strength improved tremendously, but even my ninjutsu has improved immensely. For someone like you, I can do it with one hand. Naruto, Suzumiya Musashi, who had just finished cleaning the kitchen, suddenly spoke, interrupting Uzumaki Naruto's boasting. Come here with me. Uzumaki Naruto was stunned and obediently followed Suzumiya Musashi. Uzumaki Karin was curious and followed as well. The backyard of Suzumiya Musashi's family is also quite spacious. His current self is no longer the same one who trembled cautiously when he first entered the ninja world. For security and financial reasons, he sold his house and rented a small room next to Chiriko Ramen. Now, he no longer cares about small amounts of money like a house, nor does he fear losing his property if the wealthy come knocking. So now, he has rented several houses nearby, along with 2 yards. That way, when I don't have a date with my guy, I can practice at home. Suzumiya Musashi led Uzumaki Naruto out to the courtyard. Upon opening the ceiling barrier, the light and sound of the entire courtyard were cut off. From the outside, everything looked normal. You don't have to worry about damaging the house. Use the tricks you've learned. Let me see how much you've improved in the last 3 years. Chapter 387 Uzumaki Karin, is that all? As he said that, he suddenly looked at Uzumaki Karin, who had followed him, and said, just watch and don't interrupt. Oh, Uzumaki Karin replied, disappointed. She had originally planned to tease Uzumaki Naruto if he didn't perform well. Unfortunately, Suzumiya Musashi wouldn't allow it. Naruto, let's begin. Uzumaki Naruto was initially confident, then he froze. 1 second, 2 seconds, 25 seconds. Time ticked by, and Uzumaki Karin went from being completely focused at first to looking confused. Was the screen frozen? Uzumaki Naruto reached out, and just as Uzumaki Karin's eyes narrowed and she thought the other party was about to start, Uzumaki Naruto simply reached out and scratched his scalp. Oh, boss, I don't know how to demonstrate, Suzumiya Musashi said calmly. Have you learned the Flying Thunder God technique I gave you before I left? Uzumaki Naruto's face suddenly darkened. No, Suzumiya Musashi sighed inwardly. Although he was somewhat prepared, he felt disappointed upon hearing this response. Flying Thunder God. You can't even learn your father's ninjutsu. Forget it. It doesn't matter if you haven't learned it. Uzumaki Naruto thought Suzumiya Musashi was only trying to console him and hastily said, Boss, even though I haven't learned this Flying Thunder God, my strength has improved a lot. I just don't know how to prove it to you. Prove it however you like. Upon hearing this, Uzumaki Naruto frowned for a moment and then an idea occurred to him. Boss, you'll have to be careful. Then, under the gaze of Suzumiya Musashi and Uzumaki Karin, he danced 3 times around a tree in the garden. Then he stopped and looked at them expectantly. What do you think, Uzumaki Karin? She didn't understand. She raised her head and looked at Suzumiya Musashi, confused, wanting to see what the other person was thinking. Demonstrating things is difficult to understand. For example, the way he taught Konohamaru in the original time and space was very spiritual. Uzumaki Karin didn't see what Naruto wanted to show, but Suzumiya Musashi did. The other didn't just circle the tree 3 times. Instead, he treated the tree in front of him like a person and, moving swiftly, quickly focused on the weak points according to its shape and size. He concentrated, and each time he made contact with the trunk, the power shift provided by the chakra was perfect. This is an extremely high level of chakra control, similar to Jinen's ability to climb trees and stay afloat, only the control is several levels higher. Your chakra control has improved greatly and is now roughly equivalent to the average level among Jonin. It's easy for you to achieve under your own circumstances. Hey, hearing Suzumiya Musashi's praise, Uzumaki Naruto beamed. Boss, you really understand me. To have that lustful immortal practice with me, my little toad has deflated many times over. Thanks to the psychic wallet you gave me, otherwise I'd have to beg on the streets. Psychic wallet? What's that? Uzumaki Karin suddenly asked upon hearing the name. How had she never heard of a psychic wallet? It's just a toy, it's not important, Suzumiya Musashi said calmly. Then he looked at Uzumaki Naruto. Besides this? What else have you learned in these 3 years, eh? Uzumaki Naruto hesitated. Oh, yes, what else did you learn? Besides diving, mountain climbing, street food, and accompanying Jiraiya to experience humanity and the scenery. By the way, I also mastered an even more powerful Rasengan. An idea suddenly popped into Uzumaki Naruto's mind. Suzumiya Musashi, let me see. Then, Uzumaki Naruto began to show Suzumiya Musashi his advanced Rasengan. Shadow clone technique. Bang! It formed and expanded at a dizzying speed. Soon, the Rasengan, which could originally be held in one hand, became larger than a basketball. Thanks to Uzumaki Naruto's effort, it even shrunk down to half its size. Then, Uzumaki Naruto brandished his right hand and was about to press it against the ground, but he suddenly realized that it wasn't the desert, but his home, and he quickly looked at Suzumiya Musashi. The latter was slight, and Uzumaki Naruto understood what he was thinking and shouted loudly, Automa Rasengan. Buzz! A pit nearly a meter wide suddenly appeared in the hard stone floor. The large pit was round with neat edges, as if polished. Uzumaki Naruto dissipated the chakra from his hands, stood up, looked at the large pit beneath his feet, and glanced at Suzumiya Musashi with a smile. Boss, how's it going? Very well, Suzumiya Musashi replied affirmatively. The power is very good, Suzumiya Musashi was right. The Rasengan is itself an A-level ninjutsu, and the most advanced. Automa Rasengan, while not an S-level ninjutsu, wouldn't be too different. It was characterized by its ability to be executed without hand seals and at great speed. Of course, Naruto's shadow clone technique compensated for this advantage. Furthermore, the large ball Rasengan inherits the high-density attack characteristics of the Rasengan and can inflict tremendous damage the moment it touches the enemy. In the blink of an eye, a large hole is pierced through stone. Such an attack takes only an instant to impact a person. It was far more powerful than the curse, wind and fire sleeping together that he taught Uchiha. Of course, this strength refers only to the power of the attack, not the overall effect. Fire together is based on long-range attacks, utilizing chakra from the wind and fire attributes to create a 1+1 effect, greater than 2. It has low requirements for the ninja's total chakra and low risk in close combat, making it more suitable for Uchiha, who had just graduated. The large ball Rasengan is more suitable for Uzumaki Naruto, who possesses abundant chakra and a very high combat intelligence. Anything else? Uzumaki Naruto thought for a moment and said, nothing else. The lustful sage didn't teach me attribute ninjutsu, saying that makeup ninjutsu wasn't very effective and would only slow down his wind buildup. Ah, right. Boss, I can now use much more of the Nine Tails chakra. My spiritual abilities have also become more proficient. Suzumiya Musashi nodded. I see, Uzumaki Karin. She stared, her gaze shifting between Suzumiya Musashi and Uzumaki Naruto, her eyes revealing a certain meaning. Is that all? Chapter 388 Naruto goes out to buy new clothes, and meets an old friend of the Nine Tails who is 9 years old. Isn't it all a bit boring? She knew Suzumiya Musashi's comments must have made sense, but from his perspective, Uzumaki Naruto had been gone for 3 years and it seemed he'd only slightly enlarged the Rasengan. Then he disappeared. In her heart, she felt the changes weren't as significant as her own intentions. At least she'd learned many sealing techniques from Suzumiya Musashi, as well as the 8 gates of ninjutsu. Tenten's summoning techniques were also improving rapidly. Besides weapon training, she'd already started attempting to summon giant beasts from long distances. Ah, yes. Tenten's Rasengan had improved rapidly with constant practice. Although it wasn't as large as Uzumaki Naruto's, it seemed to be much faster. She wanted to complain aloud and tell Uzumaki Naruto, that's it doesn't seem like much, but she remembered what Suzumiya Musashi had just said, so she had to restrain herself. Her face turned red from holding it in, and she felt very uncomfortable. Of course, Suzumiya Musashi saw Uzumaki Karin's expression, but he pretended not to. In the past 3 years, Uzumaki Karin had progressed rapidly under his guidance. At least he felt her progress was greater than Uzumaki Naruto's. But there was no need to say so. First of all, Uzumaki Naruto's progress was anything but slow. In 3 years, his combat skill and chakra control had reached the level of an average jonin. He had mastered ninjutsu above the A rank. Under the premise of using the Nine Tails chakra, he could summon great beasts like Gamabente. Any Jonin could be considered excellent. A genius. It was a pity he was born in Konoha. He was born in the village of Konoha, where Uchiha Itachi, Namikaze Minato, and Senju Hashirama had lived. Among his classmates were the Taijutsu master Rock Lee, the Byakugan genius Niji Hyuga, and Uzumaki Karin, who had mastered Suzumiya Musashi's sealing technique and the 8 Gates ninjutsu. Not to mention that outside the village, there was Uchiha Sasuke plotting to kill Orochimaru. In comparison, Uzumaki Naruto's progress seemed mediocre. Suzumiya Musashi could only console himself mentally. Never mind. There was no need to worry about the cheater's strength. Besides, in the 3 years since Uzumaki Naruto had followed Jiraiya, not only had his strength changed, but also his temperament, and his chakra gave people a warmer, more cheerful feeling. All these were good changes. Take a step back. The Son of Fate, the reincarnation of Ajuro, had spent 3 years traveling, forming a party, and wearing new clothes. So what? There was nothing wrong with that. Suzumiya Musashi set aside his thoughts and formed hand seals, chakra flowing through them. Underground, the earth expanded and, nourished by a small trickle of water, transformed into soil with a uniform texture. Then, under Suzumiya Musashi's control, it filled the hole created by Uzumaki Naruto's Rasengan. This was not the end. As the earth and stone floor merged, a fierce flame erupted from the ground and engulfed the newly formed soil. The wind howled, and the flames roared. The fire was so bright it was blinding. After a while, the flames dissipated, and the original soil became hard slabs of stone, indistinguishable from the original ground. Karin, go back and rest. Naruto, come with me to the study. Uzumaki Karin thought Suzumiya Musashi was about to criticize the other party, so she looked at Uzumaki Naruto with satisfied eyes and left, whistling. Uzumaki Naruto followed Suzumiya Musashi into the study. He closed the door. Suzumiya Musashi didn't say much. He placed his hand on Uzumaki Naruto's shoulder, and his chakra surged up his arm like a tide. Tick, tick, the gloomy prison was silent and empty, save for the dripping of water. The gigantic nine-tailed fox lay curled up on the damp ground, dozing with its eyes closed, passing each second in seemingly endless solitude. The days of roaming freely had passed so long ago that it could only recall them in dreams. It had grown accustomed to those days, crouching silently, occasionally observing what the Uzumaki clan children did to pass the time. It seemed an infinite world before its eyes, and the insistent voice of elderly Udo seemed to echo in its ears once more. The sudden burst of chakra startled it. Chakra is vigorous, natural, and full of vitality. It might seem warm and comforting to humans, but to the nine-tailed fox, it is something repulsive and detestable. Then, it saw a figure it hadn't seen in 3 years. Although its body seemed a little taller and more muscular, and its appearance had changed considerably, the nine-tailed fox. The sharp intuition of the beast allowed him to recognize the other instantly. With that aura, that temperament, that face, he wouldn't be mistaken. "It's you," exclaimed a rabbit upon seeing his enemy, distorting even the sound of his cries. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, shocked and enraged. The nine-tailed fox would never forget the human before him. Suzumiya Musashi. 3 years ago, when the other first entered, he left a deep impression on him. In fact, he brandished the diamond chain, whipping him. Attacking him. Just once would be enough. Since then, from time to time, the other always found an excuse to come after me. "I'm tired of practicing, I miss my master." Uzumaki Naruto is so stupid, any reason seemed to be an excuse for the other to come in and abuse him. The annoying thing was that he had no ability to resist. The power and the chains that trapped him had the same origin. The opponent could not only use the diamond chain against him, but also it reinforces the chain left by Kushina. Torturing and whipping him is equivalent to one person hitting him and a shadow-level ninja of the Uzumaki clan pressing him. His situation at that time was so miserable that it saddened anyone who heard it and brought tears to the eyes of anyone who saw it. This situation finally ceased after Uzumaki Naruto left Konoha. 3 years of peaceful life made him believe that those miserable days would never return. He even secretly hinted to Uzumaki Naruto not to let anyone in casually, let alone Suzumiya Musashi. In return, he wouldn't press the other party's issue using his chakra. Oblivion instantly spread throughout his body. You. Get out of here, Uzumaki Naruto. Where have you been? Get him out of here right now, Kurama. Stop shouting. A smile touched Suzumiya Musashi's lips, a nostalgic smile. But in the eyes of the nine-tailed fox, this smile was like the prelude to the demon's bloodlust. You, don't come here, Chapter 389. Nine Tails Wuxin Jinsen, Fury. The golden chain shot out suddenly with lightning speed. Although the nine-tailed fox tried to dodge it with all his might, he couldn't avoid it, and the chain became entangled in his mouth. His exclamations and screams were immediately blocked in his stomach. "I told you to stop screaming," Suzumiya Musashi said calmly. The chains on his body vibrated. The next instant, he leaned forward, and the chakra in his body vibrated wildly. The sound formed by the spiritual power and chakra vibrations resonated through the dungeon. "Suzumiya Musashi, don't think I can't do anything to you just because the seal is there, despicable human. I'm not someone you can mess with so easily." Roar! The nine-tailed fox's roar echoed through the space. Chakra formed a red blast that struck the cage frame and made a sound, while ferocious flames blazed. However, the next second, Suzumiya Musashi's diamond chains became entangled with those already on the cage, and then chakra erupted uncontrollably. Along with the outflow of Suzumiya Musashi's chakra, the original chains suddenly emitted a brilliant light, and dazzling gold blossomed in the air. The originally loose chains tightened in an instant. Crash! The nine-tail's massive body was suddenly crushed. The straight chains almost lifted it off the ground, and the entire fox was left in an extremely embarrassing position. The nine-tail's eyes widened, watching the chains draw ever closer, its mind gradually overwhelmed by fear. Bah! After a long while, the maniacal man finally stopped, sighed, and prepared to leave. Noticing Suzumiya Musashi's movements, his eyes finally stirred. "Are you satisfied?" Suzumiya Musashi turned around and said calmly, "Not bad, Kyuubi. When will it be next?" "I don't know, maybe when I'm in a bad mood." The nine-tailed fox stared at Suzumiya Musashi, its enormous vertical pupils glowing with emotion. After a moment, it spoke, "Could you please not come back here?" To answer, Suzumiya Musashi continued, "I know why you hit me. That child's mother is your teacher, isn't she?" Suzumiya Musashi was silent for a moment and then said coldly, "You know a lot." Kyuubi quickly added, "I'm not referring to anything else. Ninetails, really, it was you who drained the master's life force, it was you who discovered the fourth Hokage and his wife, it was you who almost killed Naruto, it was you who repeatedly did things in secret and affected his training, wasn't it?" "Kyuubi, how does this guy know everything? His heart causing trouble or something? It was just a joke before." Suzumiya Musashi, "What I mean is that what happened in Konoha wasn't my fault. I'm controlled by others too." "Uchiha. He's an Uchiha? The Sharingan controls my mind. I can't help it." Suzumiya Musashi, "So," asked the Kyuubi. "So, could you be magnanimous and let me go, since I didn't do it on purpose?" He looked around remorsefully, and after confirming that Uzumaki Naruto wasn't eavesdropping, he said in a rather flattering tone, "As long as you don't hit me, everything can be discussed." "Hey?" Suzumiya Musashi looked the nine-tails in the eyes with such a deep gaze that it seemed he could see right into his heart. Just as the nine-tails was growing increasingly anxious, Suzumiya Musashi finally reacted. To his disappointment, Suzumiya Musashi shook his head. "I refuse." "You refuse?" Kyuubi seemed to have heard something incredible. "Why do you refuse? You know perfectly well that the culprit is not me, but those of your kind. Why would you want to shame an innocent-tailed beast like myself?" Suzumiya Musashi, "I would love to." Kyuubi, time seemed to stop for a few seconds. Musashi, as if he couldn't believe how a human could utter such cold, cruel, and brazen words. After a moment, he finally reacted. The muscles in his face trembled with anger. He stared at Suzumiya Musashi's diminutive figure, his gaze growing increasingly ferocious, and finally, he could no longer contain his rage. "Suzumiya Musashi. Remember this, a coward with no capacity for revenge who only vents his anger on innocent-tailed beasts." "Coward." Suzumiya Musashi said nothing. But the expression on his face visibly darkened. Anger, evil spirit, murderous instinct, hatred, all condensed in Suzumiya Musashi's eyes. Kyuubi's movements became slower and slower, and the curses in his mouth unconsciously stopped. "I have a bad feeling. The Sage of Six Paths is above. Did he curse too much? Will this damned human fight him to the death?" Fortunately, Suzumiya Musashi had no such plan. He raised his head and looked directly into Kyuubi's eyes, his voice cold and sorrowful. "Actually, you're right, I'm venting my anger on you. I couldn't control my rage, so I could only vent it on you." Suzumiya Musashi's eyes gradually reddened. "But, can you blame me? That Uchiha has the ability to travel through space. I can't kill him, I don't even have a way to deal with him, but you're different, you're just a stinking fox." A fox trapped here, unable to run or hide. So don't blame me, blame yourself for being unlucky enough to run into me, Kyuubi, Suzumiya Musashi, then accept this, I'm leaving now. I'll return whenever I want. Suzumiya Musashi has left. He left lightly. Before leaving, he also reinforced the nine-tailed seal, preventing it from perceiving the outside world. This enraged Kyuubi even more and drove him mad. Ah, damn it, damn it, damn it. Damn you, Suzumiya Musashi, wait. I can't believe you can be so proud and arrogant forever, Naruto. Uzumaki Naruto, where have you been, brat? Get out of here. I'll give you power, I'll give you power. If you help me kill Suzumiya Musashi, I'll give you power. Chapter 390 Ebisu, I bet I won't read for a year. His voice was destined to go unanswered. Suzumiya Musashi reinforced the seal, and even his voice couldn't be transmitted beyond that space. It could only do so after the opponent's chakra had naturally dissipated for a time. Suzumiya Musashi released his hand from Uzumaki Naruto's shoulder. There was no anger or resentment in his eyes, instead, there was a hint of tranquility in his composure. After confirming that the nine-tailed fox wouldn't know what Naruto was doing for the time being, he bowed, took out a note, and wrote on it, "If the nine-tailed fox tells you that he wants to give you chakra and fight me, don't rush to refuse, and don't accept yet." After Uzumaki Naruto left, Suzumiya Musashi sat down at the study table, picked up some ninjutsu research material, and began to read. After several minutes, he hadn't turned a single page. Just as he was concentrating, he suddenly heard footsteps behind him. Without looking back, Suzumiya Musashi knew it was Uzumaki Karin. "What are you doing here so late?" Uzumaki Karin approached, looked at Suzumiya Musashi, who was reading, and asked, "Are you talking about me? And you? Why aren't you sleeping so late?" Suzumiya Musashi said, "What do you have eyes for? Can't you see I'm reading?" Uzumaki Karin exposed him mercilessly. "Come on, you've already finished reading this book. You haven't even turned a page in 10 minutes. Are you joking that you read it?" Suzumiya Musashi coughed dryly and explained, "Well, I was just reminiscing." "Reminiscing, you understand?" Uzumaki Karin looked at him silently. Then she said, looking back, "That's definitely not what the book says. Brother, you're sad, aren't you?" Suzumiya Musashi raised his eyebrows and was about to refute, but Uzumaki Karin spoke again in a firm tone. "Don't lie to me, you know, I'm pretty good at sensing emotions too." Suzumiya Musashi remained silent. "Uzumaki Karin, I sense you're very sad, it's very depressing, it seems I still miss him, and I also have a strong killer instinct." Uzumaki Karin was like a worm, revealing Suzumiya Musashi's feelings one by one. Innocent, the nine-tailed fox? Suzumiya Musashi felt that he wasn't innocent. Although the other party was controlled by the Sharingan, the resentment accumulated by the tailed beasts over the years and the repressed hatred toward humans weren't solely a result of Obito's control. The enormous hands that destroyed Konoha, whether Uchiha or Nine-Tails, were stained with the blood of Konoha ninja and civilians. Did what the Kyuubi said make sense? Probably. Anger. Haha, taking out your anger on others. Yes, I was taking out my anger on others. His fists clenched unconsciously, the veins on the backs of his hands bulged, and Suzumiya Musashi's gaze was empty, as if piercing through the void and settling on the figure behind the mask. "Obito. Give me something. Time. Give me a little more time. I've been working so hard. I've been working so hard to prepare the means for you." Suddenly, he felt a warmth on his back. Suzumiya Musashi regained his senses, surprised. He loosened his fists and discovered it was Uzumaki Karin who was hugging him, pressing her cheek against his back, feeling the beat of his heart. "You don't have to carry everything alone. Brother, you're already too tired. You don't have to think of everything alone." Suzumiya Musashi wanted to find an excuse to deal with it, but he sensed Uzumaki Karin's worry. So he paused and then spoke slowly. "Alright, then Karin needs to work harder, get strong soon and help me carry this." Hearing this, Uzumaki Karin lifted her head from Suzumiya Musashi's back and said firmly, "Deal, just you wait and see, I'll soon become a powerful ninja and surpass all your enemies." A smile spread across Suzumiya Musashi's lips. "Alright, I'll wait and see." Konoha Training Grounds, Grove. Under the shade of a tree, Konohamaru held a water balloon in one hand and made a move to grab it with the other. A shout was heard. Bang, bang, bang. He stared at the water balloon in front of him, as if he wanted to burst it with all his might. That stupid look made Ebisu, who was lying in the tree watching Midnight Butcher's new work, unable to help but turn his head. Hey, Konohamaru, what are you doing? You've been scaring that poor balloon all morning. If it really had a conscience, it would be scared to death of you. Konohamaru's face froze. Then, he looked at Ebisu on the tree branch and said with angrily, read your book. Don't interrupt my practice. I won't read it anymore. Watching you act like a fool is much more interesting than reading a book. After finishing reading and putting the book away for half an hour, Ebisu carefully put it away and smiled at Konohamaru. Konohamaru suddenly became serious. Ebisu-sensei, please don't distract me. I told you, I'm not being silly. I'm practicing the ninjutsu that Chief Naruto taught me. Ebisu smiled and asked, which jutsu? The threatening and furious balloon technique. Konohamaru repeated word for word, it's Rasengan Maru. This is the ninjutsu that Chief Naruto is most proud of. Chief Naruto gave it to me last night. Rasengan. Ebisu's face changed, and then he became serious. If Konohamaru hadn't told him, he wouldn't have been able to tell that what the other was practicing had something to do with the Rasengan. As a teacher of the elite knew very well how powerful the Rasengan was. This ninjutsu was developed by Minato, the fourth Hokage, inspired by the tailed beast ball. Not only had he perfected the form-shifting technique, but it could also be performed without hand seals. There was a time when the Rasengan in Minato's hand was the bane of countless enemy ninja. Furthermore, he knew that Suzumiya Musashi had also mastered this ninjutsu. His colleagues had told him that the other man seemed to have earned a great reputation with this ninjutsu when he was an Anbu ninja. Konohamaru, are you sure Naruto told you that the ninjutsu he taught you is called Rasengan? Chapter 391 New member of Class 7. Of course, Konohamaru said enthusiastically. Chief Naruto created a clone, and just like that, a ball of chakra appeared without any hand seals. Then he reached out and, with a whistle, blasted a huge hole in the tree trunk. After hearing the other's description, Ebisu finally confirmed that it was indeed the Rasengan. But how could he not have known that Naruto had a talent for teaching? He asked, confused, how did Naruto teach you? Konohamaru thought for a moment, then mimicked the original scene and recreated it for Ebisu to see. That's what he taught me. Reach out, get ready, and bang. Done. Ebisu, he opened his mouth to speak, then stopped, and then stopped again. Konohamaru, is it possible that you didn't understand anything other than Naruto's expression and movements? Ninjutsu wasn't even mentioned in the other's teacher's description. Konohamaru considered it and said, that possibility can't be ruled out. Master Ebisu, am I being too stupid? Ebisu was speechless. After all, he was the Shaman he'd brought along, and he couldn't bear to see him wasting time like this, so he coaxed him. Konohamaru, he retreated tactically, you're not talking about yourself, are you? Ebisu blushed and said, ahem, not this time, the Rasengan is an A-rank ninjutsu. I only know it from writing, but I don't know the details of how to perform and practice it. Konohamaru's face darkened. Then what's the point of saying so many things? Konohamaru asked. Who? Do I know him? Ebisu puffed out his chest and said, it's Suzumiya Musashi, the former Jonin whom the master taught earlier and who has now become a Jonin. Unexpectedly, upon hearing the other person's name, Konohamaru frowned. Him? Ebisu was confused. What's wrong with him? Musashi is very powerful, Konohamaru said defensively. Is he? I didn't see him. Besides, he's a Jonin you've trained, and I'm also a Jonin you've trained. How could I dare ask him for advice? If I didn't ask, the other party was a Jonin Ebisu had taught, and so had he. This was equivalent to the same level as Suzumiya Musashi, and Uchiha Aoi had to call him brother, which meant he was a generation older than Uchiha Aoi. If I ask him for advice myself, everything will be ruined. Ebisu, so you're not going? Konohamaru, no. Ebisu sighed and said, what a shame. If we're talking about ninjas who have mastered the Rasengan, Musashi should be one of the few in the village. If you don't want to learn, forget it. I'm not going. I can't believe I can't practice using the method Naruto-sama taught me. Ebisu made a nasal sound. Haha, if you can learn the method you just described, I bet you won't. I have to read a book for a year. Konohamaru, deal. You'll see, he said, and turned and left. Do you want to go find your boss, Naruto? No. Konohamaru gestured with his hand behind his back. I've already been told the method. There must be something wrong with my understanding. The boss has been busy lately and isn't in a good mood. I'll come back and study it myself. Hearing this, Ebisu leaned back against a tree, took out the collector's edition book, and planned to savor it again. Midnight Knife's masterpiece is truly hard to put down. Konohamaru was right. Uzumaki Naruto wasn't in a good mood at that moment. To be exact, he was in a very bad mood. Not only him, but Haruno Sakura was too. Both of them had serious faces, as if they had lost a lot of money and stepped in dog poop. Uzumaki Naruto grimaced and looked to the side. Tisk, Haruno Sakura crossed her arms and lifted her chin. HMPH, Hatake Kakashi, helpless, put down the picture book he was holding, looked at the people in front of him, and sighed helplessly. Okay, don't be like that, everyone should be happy. Uzumaki Naruto didn't want to pay attention, and his expression became even uglier. Haruno Sakura remained evasive, her chin held high, and seeing this during the scene, Hatake Kakashi couldn't help but sigh, wondering why Tsunade had entrusted him with such a difficult task. He turned his head and looked at the short-haired, pale-faced man in front of him with a fake smile, his voice sounding dejected. Hey, don't look at your classmates with that weird smile, hurry up, say hello, and introduce yourself. Hatake Kakashi paused, then said, well, you can also talk about your dreams or something, although this is a process for newly graduated Jinan, it doesn't matter. It's the first time a new class is being established, and it makes sense to use dreams to bridge the gap. The fake smile of the short-haired, pale-faced man faded a little, but not entirely. He smiled and spoke, his voice so calm it was a little strange. Hello, my name is Sai. As soon as he finished speaking, Haruno Sakura sneered. Tisk, what an ugly name. Uzumaki Naruto repeated, that's right. That's right. People with the surname Zuo are definitely not good people. Sai, my name is Sai, not Sai. Uzumaki Naruto rolled his eyes and said, huh? If your surname isn't Zuo, then is your surname Yu? Finally, Hatake Kakashi couldn't stand it anymore and interrupted them. Don't go overboard, you two, new classmates, please introduce yourselves. What are you looking for? Are you all in agreement? Master Kakashi, find someone who agrees, I won't join such a weirdo. Hatake Kakashi's face turned black. I repeat, this is, Uzumaki Naruto interrupted, I don't care. Haruno Sakura looked up, I disagree. The corner of Hatake Kakashi's eye twitched, his face darkening more and more, and he unconsciously clenched his fists. Then, finally, he couldn't help himself and waved his hands twice. Dong dong, ow. Why did you hit me? Why did I hit you? Hatake Kakashi lost his patience and said fiercely, this is the Hokage's order, if you're not convinced, go and tell the Hokage. I thought just mentioning Tsunade would shut Uzumaki Naruto up, but I didn't expect him to not believe it and turned and walked away. Go find him if you want. Haruno Sakura followed closely behind, saying as she walked, I'll go with you and ask the teacher not to assign me any strange teammates. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 392, The Strength of Hatake Kakashi. Come back, a loud shot stopped them in their tracks. Uzumaki Naruto and Haruno Sakura turned and saw Hatake Kakashi's icy face and the lightning flashing in his hands. They both leaned back slightly at the same time, sensing that something was wrong. They remembered that the last time Hatake Kakashi had been this angry was because the reserve books hadn't sold on time due to untimely updates. That time, the other party had nearly wrecked the village bookstore. Go back if you want, why are you shouting? Uzumaki Naruto muttered quietly, then tactfully returned. As of today, Sagi is the newest member of Team 7, it's decided, who's for it and who's against it. With that, he glared at Uzumaki Naruto and Haruno Sakura. They were both silent this time. Silence means I'm not convinced, but I agree. Kakashi Hatake's expression finally softened a little. His left hand, still glowing with a beam of light, suddenly pointed at Sai, startling the other. Hatake Kakashi, applause. Uzumaki Naruto and Haruno Sakura didn't dare resist and reluctantly applauded. Haruno Sakura clapped slowly, head held high, like a leader inspecting the work, observing the fun and enjoying the effort. Although he didn't feel welcome, Hatake Kakashi withdrew the beam of light in his hand. Alright, now we've met and been introduced, it's very likely you'll have a mission soon. Upon hearing that there would be a mission, Uzumaki Naruto's heart stirred, and he couldn't help but feel a little excited, but after hearing the next thing, He looked displeased again. Relatives? We're close and well-coordinated comrades. What do we need to familiarize ourselves with? Uzumaki Naruto's eyes widened, and he suddenly felt that something was wrong. Before he could say anything, Hokage Kakashi had already pursed his lips and whispered, "Begin." The next instant, there was a flash of lightning. 10 seconds later, Uzumaki Naruto regretted it. He regretted being too careless and angering Kakashi Hokage over such a trifle. It seemed Kakashi Hokage had him in his sights. He simply dodged Sai and Hiruno Sakura's attacks and then focused his attacks on Uzumaki Naruto. Originally, Uzumaki Naruto still had some confidence and wanted to use his own strength to impress Kakashi Hokage. But he was wrong. Right now, he was no match for Hokage Kakashi. The opponent seemed well prepared for his Rasengan, and every time his attack was about to succeed, Hokage Kakashi always dodged it. Too fast. Hokage Kakashi is too fast. He was so fast he couldn't catch him. He couldn't hide him or dodge. He felt extremely frustrated. Master Kakashi, Sakura is looking really bad. Get her. The pain in his body made Uzumaki Naruto betray his teammate without hesitation, the one he had just been fighting side by side with. Hokage Kakashi simply mocked him. "Naruto, what are you talking about? I saw you've made a lot of progress, so I just wanted to check. All this is my effort. Take it." Bang! With a flying kick, Uzumaki Naruto went flying through the air. "Kakashi, you're going too far. Don't think I can't beat you. You made me do this," Uzumaki Naruto shouted forcefully. "Really? Then let me see what other tricks you have." In midair, Uzumaki Naruto created a shadow clone. Except for one that stayed by his side and helped him create the Rasengan, the others went to intercept Hokage Kakashi. The interception was successful. After Hokage Kakashi called for Sai and Hiruno Sakura's help, Uzumaki Naruto had already prepared his ninjutsu. The enormous Rasengan, like a small blue sun, whirred in his hand. "Autumn Rasengan," Uzumaki Naruto shouted furiously and swung his hand to fire the Rasengan from above. Seeing this, Hokage Kakashi smiled slightly. Afterward, an even more intense beam spread from his hands and even into his limbs. Lightning release can stimulate cellular activation and increase speed. After communicating with Suzumiya Musashi, he improved his chakra control of lightning release, which can increase his speed. This was already one of the fastest speeds among the Jonin, so what level would it reach if it were increased by one level? A level that made Uzumaki Naruto feel powerless. The big ball Rasengan has great attack power, but so what? You can't hit me at all. Hokage Kakashi increased his speed to the extreme. Bang 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 bang, Uzumaki Naruto was like a ball, being continuously hit by Hokage Kakashi. Of a higher level. Without using summoned beasts or the chakra of the tailed beasts, Uzumaki Naruto posed no threat to Hokage Kakashi. "Guys, don't just stand there watching me get hit," Uzumaki Naruto shouted. Sai and Hiruno Sakura, who were assisting them from the side, also became more serious. If Uzumaki Naruto lost his fighting ability, the situation would only get worse. The momentum of the two men changed, and then the chakra began to explode. Boom! The strange power technique activated, and the terrifying force exploded in the battle circle, terrified Kakashi Hokage, forcing him to dodge. In his opinion, the threat posed by a powerful, rapidly activated, and unprepared technique was greater than that of the Rasengan. He didn't dare let his guard down and cautiously faced Hiruno Sakura's fists. As he continued to dodge, the earth and rocks exploded, and dust flew. Chapter 393, Sai's Strange Move. Chapter 393, Sai's Surprising Move. Meanwhile, Sai pulled a scroll from behind him and unfolded it in front of him. He took out his brush and began to write. Instantly, an eagle or beast leaped from the paper and swooped down on Hokage Kakashi. The former Enbu captain, the copy ninja Kakashi, wasn't feeling very confident and had to give it his all. Bang, 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 boom, bang. With the powerful attacks from Hiruno Sakura and Sai, Uzumaki Naruto was finally able to catch his breath. With no time to heal his bruises, he held his breath and mobilized his chakra. Multiple shadow clone technique. Bang, 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 it flashed. "Master Kakashi, recover my attack." In a high-intensity battle, his Rasengan is still not very suitable for group battles. After the shadow clone shattered, the Rasengan's remaining chakra wouldn't dissipate quickly and would maintain a good attack power for a while. Kakashi Hokage used some of his energy to dodge the Rasengan, while simultaneously using its trajectory to block Sakura Hiruno and Soi's attacks. Naruto, take those damn balls off. Hiruno Sakura was always direct with Naruto. Seeing that Naruto had consumed a lot of chakra but it hadn't had any positive effect, she shouted frantically. Uzumaki Naruto also noticed the situation. Although somewhat displeased, he obediently withdrew the Rasengan and began using physical abilities to harass from the side. Although it didn't have much effect, it began to have a positive impact, making Hokage Kakashi's task even more difficult. Boom! The ground shattered like a cookie under the strange, misdirected power. The terrifying power made Kakashi Hokage frown and Uzumaki Naruto's face turn pale. It seems I'll have to be more cautious when pursuing Sakura in the future, Uzumaki Naruto thought. As the battle progressed, the physical strength of the four of them dwindled more and more, and with the exception of Uzumaki Naruto, very little chakra remained. During the battle, several dangerous situations and moments of peril arose. Hiruno Sakura had clearly been on the verge of getting the bell, but Hokage Kakashi narrowly prevented it. Soi's expression was solemn. He saw that although Hokage Kakashi had used practically all his strength, his movements contained no lethal attacks, and both his physical abilities and his ninjutsu were about to test several opponents. This showed that the current intensity of the battle was still within the acceptable range for the opponent. Incredible. He was undoubtedly a veteran genius and famous in the ninja world. If the other side truly intended to kill, I feared that he and the others wouldn't be able to hold out for even a second. Thinking of this, Sai frowned even more. What does it mean to succeed by exploiting an opponent's weakness? He wants to win. I want to win fairly. Sai's mind raced, his brain racing, trying to figure out how to get a bell. As a root ninja, he was used to analyzing the information available during battle, trying to deduce the opponent's weaknesses. With all his might, Hokage Kakashi, who was hastily retreating, suddenly heard a loud shout. Senior Kakashi, it looks like you've dropped something. Kakashi frowned instantly and unconsciously glanced at Sai. The next instant, the eye that remained outside his mask opened wide. What did he see? A picture book. A family photo album he had just been admiring. Sunlight. Also exposed to Hiruno Sakura's fist. The oil paintings glistening in the sunlight, the intoxicating scent of ink wafting through the air, the album's generous and compassionate beauties, their desperate and helpless expressions so endearing, as if they knew their fate would be to be shattered by strange powers the very next instant. No, Hokage Kakashi couldn't help but exclaim. But immediately, he sensed something was amiss. When did Sai acquire his collection? Is this an illusion? It's normal for a root ninja to know a few simple illusion techniques. But who is he? He's Konoha's copy ninja, Hokage Kakashi. A ninja with the ability to keep his Sharingan active 24/7. Things like illusions, well, ordinary illusions, he can see right through them. The Sharingan behind the mask suddenly opened. Afterward, Hokage Kakashi was shocked to discover it was real. The photo album flying before my eyes isn't a product of chakra, nor an illusion lingering before my eyes, but a real object. Hokage Kakashi suddenly became flustered. Oh no. This is his treasure. How could it be destroyed by something like supernatural powers? I would never allow it. Never. Swish, lightning chakra stimulated the cells in his legs, brimming with vitality. In an instant, Kakashi Hokage's movements were as swift as lightning. He flashed past Hiruno Sakura, carefully and swiftly snatched the photo album, and then quickly evacuated, narrowly avoiding the opponent's attack. The album was saved, and Kakashi Hokage finally breathed a sigh of relief. He was so excited that he didn't even notice when a rock knocked off the bell he wore at his waist. Art is the most important thing. Hiruno Sakura was a little confused. But he reacted quickly, picked up the bell Sai had thrown from the ground, and shouted joyfully, Master Kakashi, we won, we got a bell, HMPH, Hokage Kakashi snorted. You're lucky. Even though it was a trap, you got away with it this time. As he flipped through the animation album to check for any damage, he asked curiously, Sai, when did you take my collection? I remember putting it in my backpack, Kakashi-senpai. Sai smiled politely. I didn't take your collection, you didn't take my collection. Kakashi Hokage was stunned, and then he realized something was wrong. The album was faulty. His collection album had the publication number, the collector's edition seal, and the author's signature. But on this album, there was nothing but the picture and the cover. There was no publication number, no release date, no signature, and no seal. Kakashi was stunned for a moment, then he looked at Sai. What's wrong? Why are you? Chapter 394 Tsunade of the 8 Trigrams. Chapter 394, Tsunade the Gossip. How come you have the same tastes as me? Could it be that beneath the other person's hypocritical facade lies a heart full of romance and art? A warmth that is hard to find fills Kakashi Hatake's heart. At that moment, his impression of Sai also changed drastically. Sai was unaware of Hatake Kakashi's change of mood. He looked at him with 2 picture books in his hand and whispered, Kakashi-senpai, this is my copy, Hatake Kakashi. Wait. Something seems wrong. Copy? Sai, a boy with red lips, white teeth, bushy eyebrows, and large eyes, really copied Midnight Niudeo's masterpiece? Of course. Why would he lie to you? Hatake Kakashi, how come? No, why? He was speechless. Why would anyone copy something like that? Although in his opinion, it was immortal art, for the public, this album remains something that couldn't be advertised. How could Sai, so young, have taken this path? Sai explained slowly with his characteristic smile. Kakashi-senpai, don't you know? He handed the album back to Hatake Kakashi and said, the artist of this album isn't an ordinary artist, the other one is also a practitioner of the ninjutsu super beast fake painting like me. Furthermore, the first time I saw this album, I realized that his painting skills were far superior to mine. To improve my skills, I tried to copy the other person's work, hoping to improve my own. Hatake Kakashi, oh, he could understand every word the other person said, but when put together, it sounded very strange. It was like a high school student who comes home and tells his family, to improve my photography skills, I found a great photography teacher and I'm studying his work closely. He's the chief photographer at Madao. Kakashi Hatake looked at Sai with a complex gaze. The excitement of meeting a fellow traveler had vanished, replaced by an inexplicable admiration. How did you do it, Sai? How did you do it, Hatake Kakashi? How can you copy this kind of artwork? Shouldn't you be blushing and flustered? Sai was puzzled. Just sit quietly and copy? Hatake Kakashi snapped. How can you sit still at your age, Sai? His face looked even more confused. After a while, a look of understanding flashed in his eyes, and he finally understood why Kakashi Hatake was confused. Sai, Kakashi-senpai, it's like copying an ordinary piece of art, it's just a bit of exposed fabric. In comparison, the artist's technique captured on paper is the most precious thing. Hatake Kakashi remained silent. At that moment, he had a new opinion about Sai. First, this young man is no ordinary young man, he will become a great man in the future. Second, this young man will probably remain single until old age. Anyone who can copy Midnight Niudeo's work without batting an eye must be ignorant of women. Kakashi Hatake's gaze lingered on the album his teammate was holding, and he couldn't help but sigh. However, his actions shocked Sai, who mistakenly believed that his teammate wanted his album. After all, his teammate is my captain and is very strong. From a social standpoint, he should respond positively right now. Sai changed his mind. Hatake Kakashi's eye twitched. His teammate's fake smile and awkward tone made him doubt himself. Do you think what I just said exposed my wickedness? Are you still mocking me for having to watch this stuff to kill time at my age? Very angry. Looking at Sai, who was still faking a smile, he became more and more convinced of his assumption. The more he looked at him, the angrier he got. Finally, he reached out and smacked Sai on the head with lightning speed. Bang! Ow! Amid Sai's cries of pain, Hatake Kakashi snatched the photo album from his hand and said angrily, "You paid the royalties, so you can paint." Confiscated, Cyrillic lettered X. One day, Hokage's office. Tsunade was standing in front of her office window, pacing around the desk, as if she were thinking about something. Upon hearing the door open, she looked up and saw that it was Shikamaru Nara and Temari who had arrived. Seeing this, Tsunade immediately forgot her worries and flashed a playful smile. "Hello, what a coincidence, you're together again." Temari was stunned for a moment, then blushed. This reaction made Shikamaru Nara, who was standing there, sigh helplessly and say, "Hokage-sama, didn't you invite us both?" "Ah, that's right, I forgot." Tsunade patted her on the head. After the joint Shunin exams, exchanges between Tsunagakure and Konoha intensified, especially Temari, who was seen coming and going with Shikamaru Nara at some point, which piqued their curiosity and fueled the gossip. Temari, Tsunade sat down in the chair and folded her hands on the table. Don't worry, some people haven't arrived yet. Temari, how are things in Konoha lately? Have you settled in yet? It's not bad, oh, Tsunade said meaningfully. I've already gotten used to the living situation. If you want to eat or play, let Shikamaru take you. Konoha is a very nice place, with beautiful scenery, ideal for settling down. Shikamaru is also a very reliable person. Shikamaru didn't dare let Tsunade continue speaking so indifferently, so he had to interrupt her. Hokage-sama, Naruto and the others are here. Chapter 395 S-Level Mission. Chapter 395, S-Rank Mission. Tsunade frowned. Naruto's here, so let him come. Do you need to remind me? Grandma Tsunade, are you calling us to give me a difficult task? If so, that would be great. I can't wait. Before anyone else arrived, Uzumaki Naruto's voice rang out. Tsunade looked up and saw Team 7 entering beside her. You all seem to be getting along quite well, how are you? Have you settled in yet? Uzumaki Naruto kept grumbling about this. Even though he had accepted Sai joining Team 7, he was still very uncomfortable. Just as he was about to complain, Sai spoke with a polite smile. Very well, the new teammates are very friendly, we're getting along very well, Uzumaki Naruto, I'm not interested in feelings. Tsunade said, good, since you're getting along, it's time to assign you new tasks. Mission, Uzumaki Naruto's eyes lit up. What mission? Tsunade, no rush, let's talk about it when we get there. As soon as everyone finished talking, the door opened again. Suzumiya Musashi, wearing a yellow training uniform, entered. He was a little surprised to see Hatake Kakashi and the others. So many people, Uzumaki Naruto greeted cheerfully. Boss, great. Shall we go on a mission together? After training with Tsunade, Hiruno Sakura, who had gradually become familiar with Suzumiya Musashi, also greeted him. Musashi-senpai, Suzumiya Musashi nodded. Tension in his heart. Come on, Sai, you can do it. One of the secrets to fitting into a new environment is to integrate your partner's friend, the ninja dog. Both Little Kunkin Naruto and Ugly Sakura are very enthusiastic about Musashi joining, so I should be just as enthusiastic. Hiruno Sakura and Naruto. The two, who had disliked Sai initially, were now quite annoyed by his behavior. That's my boss, Musashi-senpai. Do you know him? Incidentally, Suzumiya Musashi also disliked Sai's actions. To him, the other's root scent was still very strong, and his smile seemed very strange. However, he also knew that the other was just a former subordinate of Danzo and wasn't inherently a bad person. Now that his root was gone, there was nothing wrong with him. So he simply expressed his feelings lightly. Hello, I don't like your smile, please suppress it, Sai, Greek letter sigma, degree. Without hesitation, after the initial shock, Sai quickly suppressed his smile and did his best to maintain his composure. Such a refreshing transformation left Hiruno Sakura and Uzumaki in awe of Naruto. You know, they talked about Sai's strange smile more than once since they met. Even the normally amiable Hatake Kakashi had spoken frankly about it. But Sai remained unfazed and continued smiling as always. At most, he altered his smile to make it even stranger, so they gave up trying to convince each other. Unexpectedly, a casual remark from Suzumiya Musashi caused Sai to obediently comply. Sakura, Hiruno and Naruto Uzumaki didn't hide their surprise. They looked Sai up and down, wondering why their new classmate had changed so much and become so obedient. Under their scrutiny, Sai's cheek twitched, but he didn't dare move. Why was he so obedient? It was simple, because the person in front of him was Suzumiya Musashi. And he, Sai, was a former subordinate of Danzo and a member of Root. The day Suzumiya Musashi led the Anbu team to attack the Root base, he was there, and following Danzo's instructions, he participated in the siege of Suzumiya Musashi. Sai would never forget the process or the outcome of that day. He was aware that the other party had freed him from the control of the dangerous tongue Root and kept him away from Danzo. At the same time, he woke from his dreams many nights. The blue aura that reached the sky and the earth, the invincible physical strength, that figure became his nightmare. So powerful that it terrified him. Now, the real person was right in front of him. He struggled to describe how he felt, nervous, excited, fearful, and extremely complex. As for the other party asking him to suppress his smile, was that considered shameful? She didn't care and turned to look at Tsunade. Hokage, is there anything you want to ask me? If you have something, tell me quickly. The Jinan in the class are waiting for my advice, Tsunade pouted. There's an urgent task. Everyone's faces turned grim. What Tsunade called an emergency mission was obviously no trivial matter. Tsunade, we just received a report that the Akatsuki organization attacked the Sand Village. Temari's pupils narrowed. A large number of ninja and civilians were killed or injured. Also, Kazekage was kidnapped. What? Tsunade was already expecting their reaction. She continued, I asked you to come about this. Hurry and help the Sand Village. This is an S-rank mission. Everyone looked serious. Sakura, bring the medical equipment. This time, it's time for your medical ninjutsu to come into play. Tsunade was speaking, but Suzumiya Musashi suddenly frowned, which made her feel resentful. I know you don't want to go to work, but if I assign you a task, you don't have to make that face, do you? However, the next instant, Suzumiya Musashi's chakra surged violently, and with a hiss, he completely vanished. Tsunade, she froze. The others in the room were also stunned. Especially Uzumaki Naruto, who at that moment couldn't help but feel a great admiration for Suzumiya Musashi. Is the boss really that brave? You don't want to do the mission and you just run away without giving a reason. I've learned something. Tsunade's face paled, and that was her first thought. Narashikamaru rubbed his forehead, his head throbbing, and said, this. Musashi-senpai probably didn't mean that. It seems to be a reverse spirituality technique. Perhaps something urgent happened suddenly. As he said this, he was telling Uzumaki Naruto and explaining it to Tsunade to ease the Hokage's embarrassment. However, it would have been better not to say it. After saying it, Tsunade's expression didn't improve. Instead, it became even uglier. Others might not know, but she knew Suzumiya Musashi very well. Suzumiya Musashi signed the Ninja Dog Clan's summoning contract. It wasn't to provide assistance in combat to the opponent, but rather used as a means to transmit intelligence and reverse spirituality. Every important person around you would have a ninja dog following you. Now, Tenten and Uchiha stayed in the village and didn't go out. She had seen Uzumaki Karin that morning, and Ayame, being an ordinary person, rarely left the village. The other party was so eager to leave, perhaps it was because of the wild woman. I shouldn't have let him out for 3 years, Tsunade thought. Hokage, let's talk about the mission first, Temari reminded Tsunade anxiously, bringing her back to her senses. Oh, alright, that's all, you can go now, Kakashi, take them and make sure they were safe. I can protect them all, Temari anxiously followed them. After they left, Tsunade stood at the table, looking at the information on the scroll, her face gradually darkened. In recent years, Akatsuki's actions had become more frequent. Initially, the other side only accepted a few tasks that the 5 major countries hadn't undertaken, along with small-scale skirmishes, and assassinations. This was the first time one of the 5 major ninja villages had been directly attacked and the village's cage kidnapped, as happened today. Such a reckless act not only demonstrates that Akatsuki's strength exceeds expectations but also proves that the other side's purpose isn't as simple as a group making money from missions. Who the hell is it? Who would commission such a mission to kidnap the Kazekage? Tsunade thought. Anoki, or that Reikage, he shouldn't be. There's no reason. Tsunade couldn't understand it, but the sense of crisis in her heart was growing stronger. That was also the reason she had summoned Suzumiya Musashi a moment ago. Now, the other person had vanished without a word, which worried her even more. Finally, she spoke to the ninja waiting outside the door. Someone bring my guy. Huh? A small village on the border of the Land of Thunder. In the small village, the buildings were reduced to ruins and the roads were in ruins. Faint screams could be heard from the building, accompanied by flames and black smoke rising everywhere. The wooden man seemed a little embarrassed at that moment. His long brown hair was disheveled, covered in a layer of dust, and his clothes were a little damaged from the fierce battle. He leaned against the building next to him with one hand, his chest rising and falling, and breathing with difficulty. Ruins. A furious murderous intent surged through her. She raised her head and glared at the 2 approaching figures, her voice thick with pain and indignation. They deserve to die, a cold laugh echoed, and a man with slicked back hair and a giant scythe stepped forward, eyeing the Yumu man before him with a sarcastic grin. Chapter 396, The Wooden Man, Danger. Chapter 396, The Wooden Man, Danger. Damn it? Maybe. But whether I live or die is up to the evil god. You don't have the final say, Niwei, Hidden. Stop talking about this, we should hurry. A tall, humanoid-looking monster approached Hidden. Black, tentacle-like lines of varying thickness emerged from the monster's body, forming a large net with exposed fangs and claws behind it. As the tentacles writhed, 4 masks of different shapes floated above them. One of the masks had a huge crack and looked like it was about to shatter. "Lord Kokuzu, please don't be so serious," Hidden said with a smile. "It's boring to do missions. If we don't find something fun, it'll be too dull, but I feel a little excited." Kokuzu's voice was serious. "This is a mission, not something to have fun with. We must complete the task as soon as possible to avoid unnecessary complications. The most important thing is that the reward ends up in our pockets." Hidden waved his hands. Okay, you've said it so many times I have practically memorized it, Mr. Kokuzu, I'm not saying anything bad about you, but you have obsessive-compulsive disorder. No. This is an occupational hazard and requires treatment. What's the point of wasting your precious life if you don't use it to have fun? Kokuzu said earnestly. Completing the mission and getting paid is the greatest pleasure. Hidden, we should hurry. This place isn't far from the Hidden Cloud Village. If the current Raikage AI actually comes here, our mission will practically be declared a failure. Don't be so pessimistic, Mr. Kokuzu. Hidden scratched his ear and said indifferently, how can it be so easy to run into one? Do you think a cage-level ninja is a cabbage? The Two Tails doesn't have much fighting power left, so relax, Kokuzu. Let's go faster. I'll only feel more at ease when the mission is complete. Hidden felt like Kokuzu had spoiled his fun. He placed the giant scythe on the ground and opened his arms as if embracing the air. Listen, in the collapsed buildings and among the smoke-filled ruins, the wailing was coming to an end. What a beautiful sound. This is the music I played for the evil god. The evil god will definitely be happy, Kokuzu said. I don't know if the evil god lord is happy or not, but I know that if Konoha knew you killed so many people, she definitely wouldn't be happy. When Konoha was mentioned, Hidden's arrogance subsided a little. He withdrew his hands and looked at Kokuzu sadly. Why mention her? Besides, I didn't kill so many people just for myself. If I hadn't killed anyone, this Irway guy wouldn't have fought us to the death. The conversation between the two intensified the pressure on Yumura. The veins in the thin hands supporting the building bulged, and stones flew everywhere as he clung on. Yubakudo ignored his weakness and the pain in his body as he glared at Angle and Hidden, his hoarse voice filled with determination. They will die, even if it costs me my life, I will kill them. I will put my name on the line. Seeing this, Hidden smirked. Really? Then I'll bet you a small dried fish. If you win, I'll give you a small dried fish for Irway to eat. If you lose, you'll have to give me your life. Boom. The faint blue flame shot up again from the weak wooden man. Irway's roar echoed throughout the village, as if he were shouting at the dead creatures. Hidden raised his head and looked at the dark blue figure nearly 50 meters tall before him, and couldn't help but exclaim in admiration, tailed beasts. What amazing creations they are. They amaze me every time I see them. It would be great if the evil god lord could create these too. As they spoke, Yukiro, fully transformed, rushed toward them. The distance, which wasn't close for humans, was almost a blink of an eye for the enormous tailed beasts. Lord Kokuzu, I'm leaving it to you. Kokuzu frowned. Hurry up. Hidden didn't reply, but a smile that showed everything was under control spread across his face. After quickly retreating, Kokuzu watched Yukiro approaching swiftly and couldn't help but take a deep breath. Then, the black tentacles supporting the mask rapidly dispersed and transformed into black monsters of varying heights. Boom, 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 flames leaped and lightning flashed. The ground beneath his feet became a swampy trap, and the wind in the sky transformed into ropes that blocked his path. Kokuzu used all his strength, and for an instant, his chakra was consumed uncontrollably just to delay Yukiro for a while. Despite this, after exerting himself to the fullest, he was defeated by the crazed Yumu. The agonizing struggle of the perfect Jinchuriki and the terrifying power of his explosion terrified Kokuzu. Each of his 5 hearts possessed the strength of a Jonin at any given moment. But even a Jonin seemed somewhat weak against the power of the tailed beasts. Luckily, there's that villain named Hidden. Ready? Kokuzu shouted anxiously. Almost ready, Hidden's voice came from behind. Right now, just hold on for another 5-10 seconds. See, the tailed beast in his final battle, you hold me in very high esteem. If the opponent isn't a perfect Jinchuriki, he can use various methods to wear them down until they can't endure it anymore. Facing him is the wooden man of the second tail. A power that would have been enough to drive other Tsurugi mad was now completely under his control. There's no way, he can't hide, he can only endure it. When he let the other party destroy the ceremony, he would have to push himself even harder. Thinking of this, he no longer hesitated. Earth Escape, Flowing River of Earth, a powerful Earth Escape technique is released from the heart mask with Earth attribute. At that moment, Kokuzu gave it his all, and the Earth attribute chakra in his heart gushed forth, almost leaving nothing behind. In the blink of an eye, the chakra was depleted. With such a vast amount of chakra released, the effect was obvious. Beneath the enormous body of the two tails, the ground suddenly softened, and then the earth 100 meters away turned into churning mud, and amidst the vibrations, it roared and flew into the distance. The giant blue cat was taken by surprise and fell into the mud. The churning mud was bottomless. The wooden man used his legs to push hard, but only managed to sink them deeper, almost to their waists. The tailed beasts consumed all of Kokuzu's heart chakra in the blink of an eye. When he tried to control the mud to completely trap the two tails that had transformed into the wooden man, his chakra was exhausted, and the mud stopped flowing. Boom, hoo-la-la, mud rose like waves, raising smoke and dust. The wooden man broke free. The mud on his legs, quickly turned to dry earth under the flames, then broke away. With a roar, he lunged forward again. It's not over yet. Water release, great waterfall technique, boom 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 boom, enormous waves churned and crashed down. Although not as powerful as Kisame's water escape technique in Akatsuki, it was still very powerful. The waves were almost as high as the wooden man's two transformed tails, and the ground trembled as they churned. Chapter 397 Kokuzu's Rotating Lantern. Chapter 397 Kokuzu's Spinning Lantern. However, this time, Yumu-ren was not hit. He was well prepared and leaped forward, his massive body cutting through the waves and hurtling toward Fiden. Huge waves surged up again, and Kokuzu used all his strength to mobilize chakra and raise the water level once more, attempting to strike the two tails. Urwei, naturally, would not stand idly by and await death. Facing the incoming waves, the two tails leaped forward on all fours. The moment it touched the waves, a powerful chakra erupted between its feet. Blue flames burst into flying fireworks above the waves. Boom, water and fire exploded and roared. Water vapor in the sky emitted blue flames under the reflection of the fire, reflecting the connection between the sky and the sea, which was beautiful beyond words for a moment. Beneath this beautiful scene lurks a powerful force that terrifies ordinary ninjas. Hualalalala, waves of water descended like a river from the sky. The woodcutter's body transformed, and the tailed beast harnessed the force of the impact, soaring back into the air. A colossal figure loomed over Kokuzu's head. Its body measured 50 meters in height. The shadow beneath its head was like a mountain flying above him, making it appear incredibly small. Die, he told himself to stay put, his bloodshot eyes fixed on the ever-closer figure overhead, and he shouted with all his might. Fire style, heavenly pillar, lightning style, mad serpent, flames leaped up and then shot skyward. The ferocious flames were like a pillar supporting the heavens, bombarding the woodcutter's tailed beast from top to bottom, hissing and flashing. This might not be considered a combined ninjutsu, but simply the overlapping of two ninjutsu techniques launched simultaneously. However, under Kokuzu's frenzied execution, the combined power of the two ninjutsu far surpassed the effect of an ordinary A-rank ninjutsu. The wooden man could feel the vast chakra beneath his body, but he didn't care. The ferocious fire of hatred that filled his chest burned in his heart, making him want to annihilate the enemy before him. He didn't hesitate for a moment. His body, completely transformed into a tailed beast, raised its forelegs. Finally, he gathered all his strength in his hands and, with his claws raised like knives, slashed down with all his might. Boom, Razor exclaimed. Amidst flashes of lightning, flames flooded their vision and filled the sky above this small border town of the Thunder Kingdom. Blue fire, red fire, flying fireballs, and splashing flames. Within a 100-meter radius, there were flames everywhere. From Kokuzu's perspective, the entire sky had become a sea of fire. And he was at the center, right underneath it. Bang bang, two consecutive explosions made Kokuzu's soul clench with pain. Two hearts, shattered. Ninjutsu, but it also destroyed his two hearts. Although his opponent was also severely injured, and the tailed beast's chakra flames trembled, he was in pain. My body hurts, but my heart hurts even more. Two Jonin-level hearts were not something easily obtained, Not even for him. He wanted to cry. He wanted to curse. He wanted to ask Hidden aloud, "Are you ready?" But he didn't have time. There were 5 hearts in total. The 2 water and earth hearts had exhausted their chakra, and the 2 fire and thunder hearts had shattered. Now, there was only a smaller, black figure beside him, which was the wind attribute heart. Not only was it about to shatter, but it also had very little chakra left. I didn't know if he could withstand an A-rank ninjutsu. But there was no way, he had no choice. At that moment, he could only believe that Fiden could complete that damned ritual before he was killed. Fuck you, Fiden. If I'm killed, I curse you and your stupid ritual to death. You'll never get any reward in this life. Cursing inwardly, he quickly jumped back, bringing his hands and feet together as tightly as possible, like a ball bouncing backward. At the same time, the black shadow attributed to the wind moved, releasing the remaining chakra without reserve. Wind escape press. A powerful gust of wind suddenly erupted from the mask. The ferocious gale was like a cannonball, exploding between Kokuzu and the falling Yumuto. This was one of Kokuzu's most powerful ninjutsu. With a storm powerful enough to shatter the earth, he could crush all opponents. However, at that moment, he no longer expected an A-rank ninjutsu to pose a significant threat to the fully formed tailed beast, and only hoped to delay it by a second. Boom! The storm emitted a dull thud under the pressure of the tailed beast. Kokuzu screamed inwardly, and as the wind attribute chakra flowed furiously, the cracks in the mask grew larger and larger, and then, it exploded with a loud bang. The wind blew. The tailed beast transformed beneath the wooden man's body, and the dust and smoke that the hurricane kicked up, under the pressure of his body, exploded in all directions in the shape of a disc. A spherical figure curled up, and a discreet black shadow, taking advantage of some of the recoil from the wind escape technique, shot into the distance like a cannonball. It was not safe at all. With Yumuran's strength, if he wanted to kill them all, the heart he had just released would easily kill them all. He began to regret believing Fiden's nonsense and thinking he only needed to wait 10 seconds. If he left behind one heart, the remaining chakra wouldn't be enough to stop the raging Two Tails. If he used all his chakra, his retreat would be extremely difficult. Faced with such a dilemma, why had he believed Fiden's lies? At that moment, memories from his long life flashed through his mind like a kaleidoscope. A playmate from the neighboring village who borrowed money from him as a child and never paid it back. A merchant who didn't pay his workers when he was older. After fame, there is glory and setbacks, pain and happiness. He remembered one person after another. There were elite ninjas like Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha, as well as insignificant and nameless people, and his unreliable and stupid teammate Hidden. In the end, the person who solidified in his mind was none other than a woman with blue-purple hair, Xiaonan. Xiaonan, when will you return the mission reward you owe me? Chapter 398, Ninja Dog, Scared Kokuzu. Chapter 398, Ninja Dog, Scared Kokuzu. My money. My money, by that Hidden's 8th ritual, my money. The enormous figure approached with a roar, and the raging flames had already made him feel the burning. Just when Kokuzu thought he was about to say goodbye to the ninja world, the terrifying aura of the tailed beast vanished. Like a deflated doll, it lost its life force in the blink of an eye. Kokuzu blinked, then lifted his head and looked ahead. In front of us, a slender figure was falling headfirst from the sky. The wooden figure squeezed its eyes shut, and its frown revealed its pain. As it fell, the wind ruffled its brown hair, its skin mottled and burned, and the blood clotted on its body, kicking up a cloud of dust. Kokuzu saw it all and was shocked to learn that he had saved its life. Hidden, he exclaimed. I really didn't trust you. He rolled over, crawled to his feet, and looked at Fiden, who was behind him. Kokuzu, this ritual of yours is brilliant, haha, sure, Hidden grinned. Are you alright? You didn't look well a moment ago. Kokuzu's face twitched. He swallowed. A moment later, Angle, who had finally returned to life, asked, what do we do now? Hidden chuckled. What else can we do? Take care of it, get rid of it, get rid of it. As he spoke, he slowly pulled out the enormous scythe that was deeply embedded in the center of his body. The blade grazed the flesh inch by inch, making the corners of his eyes twitch, but Hidden felt nothing, as if he felt no pain. PFFT, puff, puff, puff. 4 times in a row, Fiden's scythe sliced through the joints of his limbs, one by one. For the last time, he brandished the sword and plunged it into his right arm. Lord Kokuzu, please help me pull it out. Thank you. Kokuzu took a step forward with a strange expression, Can't you do it yourself, PFFT? Hidden smiled, slowly moving his recovering limbs, and said, doesn't it save you time? Gently moving his hands and feet, feeling his limbs fully recover, Hiden took the scythe and moved forward slowly. He didn't walk quickly, not because his legs and feet hurt from recovering from his injury, but simply because he enjoyed the feeling. The feeling of being in control, of toying with his prey. In a miserable state, with his eyes closed and an expression of pain on his face, he turned with interest and looked Murin in the face, clicking his tongue. Just tell me, don't resist. Resisting in vain will only embarrass you further and demonstrate the evil god's supreme power. It won't change anything. His words seemed to spur Yukido on, who shuddered, opened his eyes with difficulty, and turned to face Hiden. His gaze wandered a little, as if he could no longer see clearly, but the anger and murderous intent in his eyes were the same as before. Alright, stop showing off, Hiden laughed. Your eyes can't kill me, your limbs should already be broken and the seals shattered, right? You can barely even turn your head, so why bother? He wanted to finish the mission as quickly as possible, collect his reward, and then find a new heart. This time, he didn't argue with Hiden. Perhaps he was satisfied seeing Yukido's miserable state. He said, Lord Kikuzu, you take care of it. I just finished the evil god's ritual, and it cost me a lot of energy. Kikuzu, you just consumed a lot, but I don't have a drop left. Under Kikuzu's cold gaze, Hiden remembered that the other party seemed to have consumed a little more energy than him. Scratching his head, embarrassed, he said, sorry, I forgot. It's okay, it's okay. Wait a moment, give me a little time to recover. Perfect. I can appreciate the appearance of a perfect Jinchuriki a little more. Her hair was disheveled, and the exposed skin was covered in blood-red fabric burned by chakra and stained with dust from the ground, making her look extremely unkempt. Only the outline of the fabric could reveal the woman's once alluring curves. Tisk, 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 the ninja world is truly amazing. How can such a large-tailed beast, with so much chakra, be sealed in such a small human body? Perhaps the evil god Lord knows. Lord Kikuzu, do you know? Hiden asked without even turning his head, as he stretched forward with the enormous scythe in his hand, doing what he most regretted in his life. The sharp blade caught on the front of Yukido's abdomen and gently pulled, exposing the place where the tailed beast was sealed. But he received no response from Kikuzu. It was because at that moment, Kikuzu had already shifted his gaze to the distance. There, he sensed the fluctuations of chakra. Being more cautious than Hiden, he instantly turned his head, alert. Then he saw a dog. A blue and white wolf dog. At that moment, the latter glared at them fiercely, its face covered in dust, thumping its front paws and seeming to mutter something. A flicker of doubt crossed Kikuzu's mind. Whose dog is this? Where did the dog come from? Instantly, something came to him, and he remembered. It seemed that at the start of the battle, Murin was following his opponent, but after the explosion, he was instantly thrown back by the shockwave. He thought he was a wooden man's pet. However, at that moment, it seemed the other wasn't an ordinary dog, otherwise, the impact would have been fatal. He thought about it, and somehow, he sensed that something was wrong. Woman, fight, dog. It seemed these keywords overlapped with some previous scenes. This feeling that something was wrong intensified even more when he noticed the wolf dog clapping. Until he sensed the fluctuation of chakra in the distance. In an instant, it was as if a lightning bolt had struck him. The sudden realization was like a thunderclap that numbed his scalp. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 399 Run. Chapter 399 Run. He wasn't sure if his hunch was right, but even so, the hair on his body stood on end. Kikuzu's eyes widened. Just as he was about to call out to Hiden to tell him his hunch, he heard his voice. How can a beast with such a large tail and so much chakra be sealed inside such a small human body? Mr. Kikuzu, do you know? At the same time, Kikuzu was horrified to discover that, as the blue and white wolf dog in the distance pawed the ground, a flash of human pleasure shone in the dog's eyes. At the same time, a powerful wave of chakra was transmitted from afar. Kikuzu, may his last second of heartbeat at full speed. Bang! The fluctuating chakra created a cloud of smoke. When a figure appeared before the wolf dog, although Kokuzu didn't see it clearly, the intuition of danger emanating from his heart told him that the situation he least wanted to see had occurred. He could only think one thing: it's over. With a gentle wave of his hand, the smoke dissipated before his eyes. The sea breeze from the small village, mixed with a pungent smell of blood, hit his face, causing Suzumiya Musashi to frown. He immediately observed the surrounding situation. He expected what would happen when he was summoned by the chakra of the Land of Lightning at that moment. Most likely, Yumu Ren's woman wouldn't hear him and would be defeated. Otherwise, if he weren't in danger, fate wouldn't have sent him there. He became as grim as water. Looking through the ruins and corners, he saw the wooden man. His aura was weak and broken, his arms exposed and covered in mud and blood. The face that had once shone brightly before him was now scarred, and his eyes, barely open, held a helpless murderous intent before closing weakly. The tip of the knife fell upon the wooden man in an insulting gesture. Suzumiya Musashi's gaze froze for an instant. "I'm sorry, Musashi, it's all my fault," Fake's guilty voice echoed in my ears. He lowered his head, somewhat overwhelmed, blood trickling from his swollen forehead. "I was too slow to react, I fainted before I could even grasp the situation. He was just an ordinary ninja dog, and he'd have a hard time dealing with the aftermath of a cage-level battle." Suzumiya Musashi didn't care. He didn't even lower his head to see Fake's guilty expression, and stared intently at Yukito. Fake suddenly trembled. It wasn't for any other reason than because he felt a strong pressure. He raised his head and looked at Suzumiya Musashi, and fear appeared in his eyes for the first time. Boom! A sense of threat, more powerful than that of his natural enemy, roared from the person in front of him. Standing before Suzumiya Musashi, Fake felt as if he were facing a raging-tailed beast. It's hard to describe this feeling: small, powerless, and sad, as if a single thought could end his life in this world. At that moment, Fake finally understood why the elders of the Ninja Dog clan were so favorable to Suzumiya Musashi's contract terms and almost never rejected them. There was no way he could refuse in return. The surge that shot up into the sky was not concealed at all. Hidden, still waiting for Kokuzu's response, immediately realized something was wrong. He hurriedly turned his head and saw a familiar figure. Hidden would never forget this figure. Not long ago, he had been defeated by the figure before him, and the evil god had needed a great deal of power to recover. Hidden hesitated. He wanted to call Kokuzu to flee with him, but before he could open his mouth, he realized the other was reacting faster than he was. He had already crouched down, and the muscles of his thighs were bulging with blood. He looked ready to escape. "See." Hidden cursed inwardly. Just as he was about to escape with Kokuzu, Suzumiya Musashi moved. A beam of light erupted from Suzumiya Musashi's body. Hidden only felt the flash of Suzumiya Musashi's figure, and then it vanished from his sight. At the same time, a loud roar was heard. Boom! The ground looked like cow dung filled with firecrackers, exploding in the air. Large chunks of earth flew off in pieces, like yellow waves, rising into the sky. The magic circle. The place where the Earth's world was exactly where he had just carved a ritual matrix with blood. However, at that moment, not to mention the matrix, not even a patch of formed earth could be found. The ground rippled and cracked, with huge ravines crisscrossing it. Under the tremendous force, the moisture from the ground rose in bursts of steam, making the surrounding air smell intensely earthy. Musashi's figure had once again disappeared from the scene. This time, his target was hidden. A distance of about 100 meters doesn't seem short at first glance. But for Hidden, it was too close. He watched helplessly as a beam shot out from the ravine-filled ground and headed straight for him. Hidden tried, he dodged it. He did his best to control his weak legs and summon strength, but just as his trembling legs received the command, the lightning had already arrived. Hidden felt a flash before his eyes. The landscape in front of him vanished rapidly, and the buildings behind him hurtled toward him. Then he realized that he must have been brought down in an instant. Intense pain coursed through his body, and the ringing in his ears was transmitted to his brain with a thunderous roar. Bang! His body was embedded in the ruins. It was only at that moment that Hidden's lungs regained their function, and he let out a long cry. Pain. Sharp pain. The pain distorted Hidden's facial features, and he screamed, disregarding his appearance. The ritual formation was destroyed. The function of the magic circle is not only to deflect the damage suffered from the attack, but also the pain suffered. The magic circle broke, and the pain returned. At that moment, without the power of the evil god, he realized that the enemy's pain before the thought of dying was so intense. This feeling is like spending lavishly only to discover that the wealthy woman who transferred the payment to you has been seduced by someone else, and you have to foot the bill yourself. The same pain. Chapter 400 Suzumiya Musashi, wait until I deal with them. Chapter 400 Suzumiya Musashi, wait until I'm done with them. After knocking Hidden down with a single blow, Suzumiya Musashi didn't pursue him. He stood before Yukido, trying to sense the changes in his opponent's aura. He only felt relief when he was certain that his opponent hadn't reacted to Hidden's sudden, powerful strike. Although he vaguely knew that damage transfer would be ineffective after the opponent's ritual formation was broken, he had been out of control the last time he helped Fu, and some details were unclear. It wasn't until that moment that he became certain that the formation was a necessary condition for Fudoin to transfer damage. He didn't dare linger and quickly crouched down, placing his palm on the wooden man's lower abdomen. Yang-style chakra, brimming with life force, was like a flooded lake, flowing from his hands into Yukido's body. Suzumiya Musashi used chakra to replenish Yukido's vitality while examining his injuries. His chakra was depleted, his body's muscles severely torn, and he had severe burns in various places. He had several broken bones and much torn tissue in his limbs. The good news was that, although the Two Tails chakra was also weak, it didn't cause any problems. After completing the ritual, it was slowly and steadily repairing the wooden man's body. Perhaps due to the impact of Suzumiya Musashi's enormous chakra, the wooden man's eyes, which had been closed, opened again. It took him 2 seconds to barely make out the silhouette of the person in front of him. Then he smiled faintly. "You are here." The movement of the corner of his mouth tugged at the wound, causing waves of pain, but the wooden man didn't care at all. He looked at the man healing his injuries, and he was in a trance, unsure if he was awake or dreaming. "Am I dreaming? If this is a dream, then it's a little painful." Suzumiya Musashi's hands trembled for a moment, and then he tried to calm his voice. "It's not a dream, I'm coming." As Suzumiya Musashi spoke, an extremely bright light shone in Yumiuro's eyes. It was like seeing an oasis in the desert in hope and despair. Perhaps, it was more than just hope. The man in front of her was Suzumiya Musashi. He was the man she had always dreamed of, the only man she had accepted into her life, and the man she had chosen. In short, he was a wooden man. When the battle began, Fak was severely injured in the aftermath. At first, he didn't take it seriously, but then he realized he had underestimated the enemy's strength. He thought he was going to die, but he hadn't expected to see Suzumiya Musashi before he died. No, he can't die, he has to live. And so many things he wanted to do with him, and they both had to be sober to do them. She also wanted to find the most beautiful wedding dress in the ninja world, dress elegantly, send him to the door, and get married. The thought stopped abruptly. The wooden man's eyes, originally drunk, suddenly snapped open, then froze in panic. He tried with all his might to raise his hands, but his tendons were torn, and the attempt was useless. He could only twist his neck forcefully, trying to turn his face away from Suzumiya Musashi. "What's wrong? Are you uncomfortable?" Seeing her movements, Suzumiya Musashi became extremely worried. "No, it doesn't look good." The wooden man made an intermittent sound. She remembered. She had just survived an extremely decisive battle. With traces of her complete transformation into a tailed beast, battle scars, and the scene of her falling to the ground a mess. At that moment, she must have been the ugliest woman in the world. She didn't want to. She didn't want Suzumiya Musashi to see her like that. I even had a strange thought, would it be better if the other person didn't come? However, when Suzumiya Musashi heard her words, he was stunned. He couldn't understand the other person's thoughts. "Are you still thinking about beauty and ugliness at this moment? Ninja battles are always a matter of life and death, so what about beauty or ugliness?" This woman must have been astounded. She wanted to complain about the other person's ridiculous idea, but seeing her miserable appearance and remembering the time she went to the trouble of showing her the Two Tails chakra flame, her heart softened. Forget it, perhaps women's thoughts are so difficult to understand, especially beautiful women's. If you love beauty, just love beauty. If you agree with the other person, you won't lose anything, she said softly. No, you are the most beautiful. Even now, you are more beautiful than other women. Yumuran knew perfectly well that she was lying. Shame and discomfort filled her. Men are all the same, they like what is beautiful and hate what is ugly. You can't trust a man's words. That's what she thought before, and that's what she thinks now. Until, unable to move, she met Suzumiya Musashi's gaze. What eyes? No disgust. No conflict. Tenderness. No one who saw those sincere eyes could say with a clear conscience that there was any ill intent in them. Just one look. The wooden man believed it. Convinced. The man in front of her might be lying to her and saying nice things, but he definitely cared for her. She felt even more compassion in her heart. Then, a fierce anger seized her eyes. Damn it, these two bastards. What have they done to my good brother? They made me cry. Suzumiya Musashi burned with anger. He treated the wooden man like a brother. They were brothers who had met fighting, and who had lived adventures and fought together. Not only did the other help him in the critical moment, but he also generously showed him the unique chakra of the two-tailed Matatabi, saving him a great deal of practice time. What was this? It was a steadfast friendship. Although Yumu Ren was very handsome, and although he sometimes felt the other was quite fragrant, overall, Yumu Ren held a position in his heart that of a brother and friend. A very high place indeed. And now, his good brother, with whom he had once fought and stayed up late studying chakra, was being beaten like this. Unbearable. As the wooden man's breathing gradually stabilized, Suzumiya Musashi saw him and released his hand. The latter's eyes suddenly tightened. Why take it away? But then Suzumiya Musashi spoke in a deep voice, wait a second, I'll deal with him first. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.